Look at my thumb.
Dude.
It's all
How
good.
have you managed this week? It's looked really rough.
Eh, yeah, it's weird. I've got this thing against, like, none of my pants have got zips. So I've stopped undoing the buttons, and you can't. It's amazing how much you use your thumbs.
Yeah.
So, like, doing my pants up, like clicking the little button on top of the kettle to open the lid, uh, opening the milk, just tiny things. It's been all right. Could be worse.
Well, it looked pretty it looked pretty severe, to be honest, for falling over. Sean has been running with scissors this week.
Yeah. Well, so to fill everyone in, we might as well leave this in. I fell over onto a jar of coffee. The jar of coffee smashed, and I lost half my thumb. Yeah, they had me in a plastic surgery queue. Did I tell you
Hmm.
this?
Yeah.
Okay,
You,
and then
you said that you were one evening you were waiting. You were still waiting at like
that's right.
8:30 or something like that with the
Yeah.
GP.
So they decided we emailed me and the doctor emailed some photos over to the specialist guy, and he went, "Man, it looks bad, but I've seen worse." He said it's pointless causing another wound, as in a skin graft, to try and fix a wound that's notoriously difficult to heal on your thumb. He said, so just roll with it, basically.
Right. So, so my question would be then that depends on where you were getting the other skin from. If it was coming from you, yes. But if you had a donor,
Well,
then
I was all up for cadaver. I I said to the doctor, wouldn't it be funny if they took it from just here on my face, and then I could continually grow my beard on my thumb?
your thumb.
I wonder if that would work. It probably doesn't work like that, does it?
No idea. But leave you with a big hole in the side of your face like the mummy.
So yeah, it's a bit of a grind, but could be worse.
Yeah, so
Could be worse.
I'm assuming then that you lost all of the coffee as well.
Oh, it smashed and it blew down the street. I fell on the hopper of milk. That exploded. And I can't remember if I told you this. I'd also bought a Snickers bar and it was shoved in my pocket. And I'd forgotten all about it. So after I'd been to A&E and they patched me up and I was waiting for a lift home from my neighbour, I'm just standing around outside in the cold. I went, I got Snickers in my pocket, and it was really flat. But never has a Snickers been enjoyed more.
I say anything that doesn't contain sort of like slivers of glass is
Yeah. Actually, my very first reaction was, "Oh my god, that's quite deep. I want a cigarette." That's exactly where my head went. Isn't that weird?
right.
Do you still do that?
Occasionally,
Like in times of crisis?
yeah. I mean, it's been 25 years, I guess now for me that I stopped,
You
and
calling me a
yet
bad influence?
no, 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 no. Uh, but every time I see somebody, on the TV having a smoke and when it looks really satisfying, that's kind of like when you go, oh man, I just wish I had a pack of Marlboros in the cupboard right now. It just
That's the problem, isn't it? They wouldn't stay in the cupboard.
no. Well, like we always used to say, if you don't smoke them quickly, they go off.
Yep. 24-hour lifespan on those packets.
That's it, yeah.
Yay, yay. You good this week? No
Yeah,
disasters?
no, not nothing too severe. The horses are okay. The dog's okay. We have, like I said, we've done a home check for the possibility of fostering another labradoodle. Well, it wasn't just
Yeah.
specifically a labradoodle. It was fostering another dog. We originally on this place, I can't remember what it's called, Archangels, I think it is, and they deal with fostering dogs out around the North Wales and Chester area. And this one came up a couple of weeks ago, and we thought that nobody was going to apply for him because he had 3 legs and one eye.
And his name was Gavin.
No, this was a different one.
Oh, right.
But yeah, but he went quite quickly, and then there was another couple came up, and Kate said, I'm just going to put our names forward and see what happens, and then this labradoodle called Gavin.
Terrible name for a dog.
I mean, it's proper. It's proper Family Guy, isn't it? Where he's got the Mayor West is shooting the cats from his from his bow and arrow. He's got a cat thing, and he collects them, and one's called Paul, and he's like, "Who calls a cat Paul?" And I thought, well, it's very similar.
I mean, we've got loads of dogs around here. There's a Dave. Um, there's a Katie. I mean, they call things like Catherine and Brian, and well, actually, Brian's okay because it might be a Family Guy gag, but
Brian,
it's just
O'Brien.
strange. You don't get dogs called Prince anymore, do you?
Rex,
Or Rex or Shep.
Shep, yeah, but yeah, it's I can understand that you wanted to look for something a little bit different from everybody else, but surely Gavin isn't it?
That's just about the worst ever. You'd have to change his name if you got him.
Well, I've said to Kate that I'm going to slowly kind of like adapt it. So first of all, I thought I'd call him Glavin, like from Professor Frink from The Simpsons. Glavin.
Dear me.
Or Vinny,
Vinny, that's a good one.
Vinny. We'll have to see how it goes. I mean, there's no guarantee that we get him anyway. But he
Bill won't be happy. Bill will be cross.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will for a little while. But
But then he might be a good buddy, I suppose.
Yeah, he might be a good buddy. Yeah, and besides, it's a bit of getting our own back for him, making me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. this morning, at walking around the fields because he just felt like it.
Heard a noise in the distance.
Yeah,
in the trees.
It's coming, but it may not be here anytime soon.
Oh, it could have been a squirrel. Not sure. Yeah. Poor Bill.
Yeah, love him, but I say it's all about looking after things that can't look after themselves, isn't it?
Yeah, and they and they chose you.
Well, not yet. They didn't. We shall see.
So, what we got this week? This week we're doing a weird thing, aren't we?
Yeah.
I've interpreted it, and I believe it was my idea, so I may have interpreted my own idea wrong. But in that we were going to do a sort of a swift top 10, maybe not top 10, maybe just some people who were better replacements than the person that got thrown out of the band in the first place.
Yeah. Now, I've been quite sort of flexible with that interpretation.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think in a lot of cases, they may not have been better. They may have been just as good as,
Yeah,
but
or different.
yeah, but potentially ended up being more successful purely by the timescale that they've been involved in the band with.
Yeah, hang on a minute, because I've forgotten to look something up here, which is integral. Right, here we go. Blah, 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 blah. Accept cookies. Yeah, just give me the bloody information. Right, you can go first.
Donate to Wikipedia.
You go first.
All right. I'll throw in an obvious one then, and we'll
And, and
start
I
with
bet
this.
and I bet we have loads of similar things.
I'm sure we will have. I'll throw in AC/DC then. Obviously, Bon Scott, phenomenal start to a rock and roll career, and an exceptional band. And then he only lasted 6 years with the man. So 74 was the time that AC/DC started, and he died in 1980. So he was only in the band for 6 years before he was replaced by Brian Johnson, who's obviously still going today. So 1980 to 2022, currently, Brian Johnson is still the main man.
That's 90 years. Yeah, 42 years.
42 years, and
Wow.
yet Bon Scott still has a legacy on 6 years.
How long was other bloke singer of AC/DC for? Dave.
I didn't even bother with him because I
Three
think it
weeks?
was probably like about a year or something like that.
Yeah.
But he wasn't one though, because funnily enough, because you and I had that conversation,
We
didn't
did.
we, the other day about bass players, and said, "Oh, whoever cares about a bass player if a bass player comes and goes or whatever. It's all about singers or guitarists, isn't it? Nobody cares about the other guys, like." But funnily enough, the original bass player for AC/DC, Mark Evans, was 75 to 77. So he came in a year after they started and only lasted 2 years, and then was replaced by Cliff Williams, who is still the bass player now. And he's
Wow.
such a solid guy,
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, they've had drummers come and go as well. Phil Rudd has been the drummer for the most part, but they've had Chris Slade and Simon Wright, play for them as well. While Phil Rudd was either in jail or
Yeah.
or
Well,
rehab or something like that.
Dave Evans was in the band for a year. Are they related?
I don't know. Didn't even bother checking, to be honest.
Someone else can go and look that up.
Yeah,
I've never seen AC/DC live.
really?
Not at a festival, not ever.
No.
Remiss.
Obviously, I was unfortunately too young to see Bon Scott, but I've seen copious amounts of footage of him. And I think I sent you a link, didn't I, to what where they were doing, where Angus Young kind of like jumped up on this balcony and was walking along the parapet of this balcony, playing the guitar, like, and headbanging and everything. And you'd never be allowed to do that in this day and age. It's just absolute health safety madness.
It's it's weird because what is your AC/DC? Do you prefer Scott?
Yeah, I prefer Bon Scott, even though I think kind of like, I mean, the first stuff I heard was Bon Scott, which was the live album. Can't remember, the name escapes me now. The live album, and then obviously the Highway to Hell album. But obviously, literally, I mean, it was like 6 months between him dying and Back in Black coming out, and it was just like, and then all of a sudden you were hit with that, and it was like different singer. Oh, okay, didn't really kind of register that all that had happened within the space of sort of like 6 to 8 months.
It was a big deal in school. We must have just started school, really.
Yeah,
It was a very big deal. But I mean, the album was of the Back in Black was of the magnitude of um, the Black Album.
yeah,
It was just and Slippery When Wet. It was just huge.
it was. Yeah,
But for my money, I prefer. I mean, if you said if a record company came to me and said, "We want you to put together a greatest hits of AC/DC," all my stuff would be Bon Scott stuff.
yeah.
And then after Back in Black, it all sort of faded to meh. What's the album that comes after it?
For those about to
Those
rock.
About to Rock. That's got a couple of good songs on it, maybe four. And
Yeah,
after that, it just gets decreasingly more.
yeah. What do they call it? The law of diminishing
Yeah,
returns. That
yeah,
I don't know what it was really. Yeah, and the same with me. I think there's some decent songs, a couple of decent songs on every album, but nothing sort of like nothing that stands out as much as the first, as Back in Black or For Those About to Rock, to be honest.
yeah.
But those were that were done with Mutt Lange as well, so so that should tell you everything you need to know.
It does
You,
really. I
so,
mean, it says that'll segue nicely into my next thing. And I'm not cutting you short because we can cross
no,
these
no,
over. But I can't remember his name. Pete Willis was
Pete
an
Willis.
was an albatross around Def Leppard's neck, and Steve Clark, not
Yeah,
Steve Clark, the other guy, Phil Collin,
Phil Collin from
um,
Girl.
just a brilliant replacement,
Yeah,
songcraft wise, performance. Phil Collins just a tiny genius, I think.
yeah,
That was a super replacement. But again, Mutt Lange had his sticky fingers all over it. And sometimes
yeah,
you got to wonder
yeah.
that
There's some.
maybe it could have been anyone.
Maybe this is another show, which is producers, engineers, kind of kind of thing, because you can put Mutt Lange and Bob Rock and Ted
Ted
Templeman and
Templeman's probably a big one, isn't he?
yeah, Bruce Fairbairn, another one. So maybe we'll save that for another show.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Phil Collin really I think he was what Def Leppard needed at the time.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
In 100 different ways. Um
I mean,
he
I
was
don't
just
know.
driven.
Yeah, and he doesn't look any different now, does he? It's
Oh,
sort of
there's some videos. You should I don't know if I sent you the links of him. He's made a gym in his garage.
yeah.
Wow.
I've seen it. He's in incredible shape, and he's just such a, he's such at ease with his guitar as well, isn't it? Just sort of like it all flows so easily for him. Just
Phil Collin is no, I don't want Phil Collins. 64, and he looks amazing.
he really does,
Not, I
really
mean,
does.
have you ever seen him play with his shirt on? I'd go to the shops with my shirt off if I looked like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you would, wouldn't you?
Look at me.
But he's got a belting voice as well, hasn't he? I mean,
Yeah.
he's done some of the stuff on on the was it the Oh Yeah, the covers album that they did and stuff. You know, and he's got an amazing voice as well. So you know,
And I
fair dude.
think
Yeah,
if he hadn't been there to carry a big basket when Steve Clark died,
yeah,
I think that might have been the end of Leopard.
yeah. The whole thing could have fallen apart quite
Yeah,
easily,
very
couldn't it?
much. I think he's
Yeah,
integral.
yeah. I mean, was it did was him joining Def Leppard the death of Girl, or Girl already finished and he, you know,
Well, if you listen to my Phil Lewis Girl episode podcast thing,
uh-huh.
um, I think Girl would just go in nowhere. To be honest, as far as I can gather.
Yeah.
Um, I
Which
mean,
is a shame, really, isn't it? Because they were again, they were an absolutely stunning band, really. You know, and I know that Phil Lewis doesn't really rate the Wasted Youth album as much as he does the first album, but
he's
the shit
wrong.
album. But I loved Wasted Youth. I thought it was a brilliant album. You know,
I think
maybe
there
maybe a
seemed
bit more mainstream than the other one, but
there seemed to be and I can't remember if I put this to him or not, but what year is this? This is 80. No, this is even late. I can't remember what Girl's lifespan is. What is it? 79, 80, something like that.
yeah, 81 Wasted Youth, I think, was it?
Yeah. I think back then there was an expectation that you put your band together and you gigged because there were pubs, clubs, you could go anywhere, especially if you were based in London, which they were, and you got gigs and you got a deal and you got somewhere. And I don't think they were going anywhere very quickly. And I think they all got really pissed off with it. Like, I
No,
mean, you may have been in a band together. You know what it's like. It when you
yeah.
just people just wander off, don't they? And go, oh, that looks better than what I'm doing now. Or it's tough to keep it together.
But back then, no, there was so many places to play, wasn't there? They, you know, and those kind of like places that were, I mean, places like the Roundhouse and stuff like that, which were massive venues on a small scale, if you like, weren't they? You know, but they were massive venues for the bands at the time. There, really, you know,
Yeah,
um, like you know, like the Hammersmith Palais and stuff like that. You know, all of those kind of venues, they all just sort of like slowly dried up over the, you know, towards the end of the 80s and through the 90s, and then it got harder and harder to find places that would put on live music
mm.
because because people would get more money from having a mobile disco or a karaoke night than, you
Yeah.
know, than a live band, and they wouldn't have to pay out, you know, 200, 300, 400 quid for a band.
And I guess there's always the politics, isn't there? Of like, I know they got dismissed from the Kiss tour, but as a support band, you still have to put somebody still has to put the money up
Yeah,
for you to go on the support tour. So if you get dismissed off a big tour, what are the odds on your management company doing it again second time around? And like, is that your shot, or was there someone else around? I mean, there were so many bands around that back then.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I don't know, but
I have funnily enough, I have a little link there actually. Um, he said if he can remember where he put it, or maybe he didn't put it at all. Anyway, um, maybe it was all in my mind. Um, clearly it was. I thought I'd written it down somewhere, but I'll maybe find it later. That little link that that I should have written down somewhere. Um, but yeah, there was um, well, like you said, there was the opportunity to play with big bands and kind of like, and there was also big bands playing with big bands, wasn't there? You know,
hmm,
and yet like somebody like Kiss would take out maybe two kind of like medium-sized bands
Yeah.
as their as their backup, and and we and for the most part at that sort of time we were probably more interested in going to see the support bands
it
than we were
was the,
seeing the
it was the only
headliner at
way
that.
you could see them, wasn't it?
Yeah, because you think, well, yeah, I can see, I can see Black Sabbath, I can see this, that, and the other, I can see Kiss, I can see them every year they come round and everything, but the chances of me seeing, at the time, Faster Pussycat or Cinderella or Dokken or
Yep.
any one of those kind of, those sort of like
Shy.
shut. Well, thanks for taking it seriously.
That's okay. I was going to say Helix, actually. I used to really love Helix.
Yeah,
So getting them on the Kiss tour was fantastic.
yeah, great band. Yeah, I missed that tour. I've got to be honest. That was, I think we discussed that in a previous episode, didn't we? That was on the Lick It Up
That's the
tour.
Lick It Up tour, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so there you go. Well, we're doing all right. We've got Bon Scott, Brian Johnson, Pete Willis,
yeah,
Phil Collins.
yeah.
Pete Willis never did anything ever again, did he?
Um, I don't think nothing of
Surprised
any.
he never joined the band with that guy that got chucked out of Iron Maiden.
Oh, Paul Diano.
Yeah.
Oh, nice link. I shall just turn the page and go. Iron Maiden.
Well, hang on, just before you drift off, he's in a he was in a band called Gog Magog in '85.
Right.
Hang on, this Wikipedia page on the Pete Willis thing, it's got him down as being on Pyromania. I didn't think he was.
I, I didn't he.
Maybe there's a crossover.
Yeah, I did. I think he wrote some of the songs, and I didn't know that he actually played on it. I think he wrote some material for the songs before they recorded it. But
Yeah, that may be true. Blah 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 blah. Let's have a look. Additional musicians. Blah, blah, blah. No, too boring to do live on air. I'll have a look later.
yeah, dear.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
The album was partially recorded with Pete Willis, whose rhythm guitar tracks appear on all songs.
All right. Okay.
Towards the end of the recording, he was fired for alcohol abuse and replaced by Phil Collins, who contributed solos and the guitar parts not yet recorded by Willis. I
There's
thought
a
Phil was all in by then. Okay.
there's a certain irony to him being fired from the band for alcohol abuse when you
Yeah.
know 5 years later or whatever the main man dies from alcohol abuse. You know, unfortunately,
Yeah, it's a shame. Steve was something else.
he was. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Anyway,
So while we leapt to that conclusion of him joining Paul Di'Anno's band, then I'll throw in Iron Maiden, which was formed 1975.
were they
Various
really? Wow.
various members um, up to 1978 when Paul Di'Anno became the lead singer. And I mean, it was the music was. You could see where the music was going, but Paul Di'Anno kind of like he had this kind of like punky edge to him, didn't he? Rather than Bruce Dickinson's kind of like big kind of like anthemic rock voice sort of thing. Paul Di'Anno was much more punky, so it gave it much. It was much more raw. The first two albums and the God, what was it called? Made in Japan. The live EP thing, which I think pretty much broke them really.
I
That
know nothing about Maiden. I can't. They're just not for me. But
no,
I think Bruce Bruce brought an imagination to the band that they were never going to get in a million years with Diano.
Yeah.
All that stuff. I watched their Actually, I watched it out of curiosity. I watched the Kiss set at Donington at Monsters of Rock. No, it's not called that, is
Mm.
it? Download.
Mm.
Just out of interest, I thought, well, let's see what Iron Maiden have done with their stage set. Wow, it like blew Kiss away. It's like holy cow, and they'd have never have got any of that with Diano.
No.
That journey was not for him at all. I was quite
No.
impressed actually.
And I think what you say when you think that the first album that Bruce Dickinson played on was The Number of the Beast, and how massive that album was, you know, I mean, it was just absolutely huge, and he'd come from playing with Paul Sampson, hadn't he? You know,
Yeah,
he,
in
he'd been
Samson.
in, he'd been in Samson, and he changed his name. I don't know if his name originally was Bruce Dickinson, but when he was in Samson, he was called Bruce. You know, so whether or not that was his name, I would probably have punched my father in the face for that if that was the case.
I need to look now.
But that was back in the day with was it with Thunderstick on drums, wasn't it? Who had the gimp mask on?
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, Samson were pretty good. To be fair, they were one of those new wave of British heavy metal bands, weren't they? But you know,
Oh,
Paul
hang on,
Sampson,
that is his real name,
Bruce,
Paul Bruce Dickinson.
right, right.
Fair enough.
So the odd name. I'll change my name to Bruce, but it's got a real rock star ring about it.
Yeah, I get the feeling he wasn't taking it awfully seriously.
No. But I mean, there's been some glitches there with them as well, because I mean, you know, Bruce left for a little while, didn't he? 94 to 99 when Blaze Bailey from Wolfsbane joined.
Which is
He
just
recorded,
bizarre.
yeah, he recorded 2 albums. I know, but Blaze Bailey's got a good voice, but he certainly hasn't got that kind of voice. You know, he hasn't got what they call Bruce Dickinson, the air raid siren. He hasn't got that.
Yeah,
He certainly hasn't got that kind of, you know, that beef to him, has he? You
but
know,
he the problem with the other problem with that was he also had um he'd built an identity as a beer drinking dickhead in Wolfsbane
yeah,
for quite a few years. I
yeah,
mean, I've seen Wolfsbane about 4 times, 4 or 5 times.
yeah,
Um, they did double headlining thing with the choir boys, didn't they? At some
yeah,
point, so I'd have seen them about 2 or 3 times on that. They were just a good time pub band, but
yeah,
when you've already got an identity, it's pretty tough to take the place of somebody like that.
yeah. I don't think it was the best call for Iron Maiden, you know,
Or Blaze.
or Blaze. Really, no, 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 true enough, like, you know. But I mean, we've seen some recent footage, haven't we? And it all does look like normal service is resumed
Yeah,
as good time good time pub bands again, you know, and Iron Maiden, you know, seeking the stratosphere again. So
it's
yeah,
it's a weird one. I mean, they're just um, and we just mentioned three massive bands there
mm,
who all um took care of business.
yeah.
I guess that's what they really did.
And
And
there's
I
good. There's
guess management and stuff were involved as well at some point. Otherwise, you tend to carry on with your mates, don't you?
well, yeah, and you, and that's I think probably why most bands fall apart, isn't it? You know, because like you said, you know, we're not doing that because we're mates. We're not doing, you know. There's a lot to be said for all the stuff that we, you know, that Gene Simmons gets slagged off for, you
Mm.
know, but you know, business first, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't come into our thing, but when Richie Sambora left Bon Jovi, I've quite a bit of respect for him for not even trying to replace them. They just got some decent guitarist in who was it? Phil X?
Bill X, who would just do what he was told.
Yeah, you know,
Uh,
and then you were either there for John or not. Um, but I think if they tried to replace him and have that sort of same, oh, it's us two, I don't think that would have worked there.
yeah.
I'm kind of glad they didn't try, even though they could have tried writing some songs after Richie had left. That would have that would have helped Bon Jovi a lot. Because we were saying the other day, weren't we?
Yeah.
The last good album they made was Keep the Faith.
Faith. Yeah.
And that is over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a long time to be average.
Yeah. No, I remember we were talking the other day, weren't we, about the demise of record stores and as things were slowly closing down, how you could, if you were in the right place at the right time, you could clean out some of the bins from some of these record stores. And I was actually in Newbury, down staying down with my dad when the MVC in Newbury closed down, and they had. I must have taken £100 worth of CDs out of there, but it was £100 at where they were all like £1 each, and one of those was the collection that was it called 1 million Bon Jovi fans can't be wrong or something like that, where it was like a 5 CD box set
Oh,
thing.
okay, yeah.
Um, and it was all kind of like outtakes from various albums and live tracks and this, that, and the other, and all sort of stuff, and B-sides, you know. And I think probably out of the 5 CDs, there was maybe half a CD's worth that were any good, and they were probably already things that you'd already heard, like Edge of a Broken Heart and stuff like that. And again, it was just sort of like so disappointing because I remember reading all these things about about these tracks that you'd never get to find out because they were demo only versions, and and back in the day the record companies were really protective of the bigger bands, weren't they, from
Yeah.
you know so they were really hard to get hold of the demo versions that were involved in any of the bigger albums. And I remember seeing the names of these songs, and then when you actually get to hear them, you think, well, yeah, there was a reason why that didn't make the album.
Yeah. I found out something the other day, which was when Cinderella, sorry, talking about Cinderella, which we went, but sort of did. It was always well known that John Bon Jovi had helped them get their record deal. But I was listening to an interview with Tom, and he said not really. Gene Simmons was most integral in getting them their deal.
Really?
Yeah, good little story. So I'll try and find it and send it over to you.
So he's been. I mean, Gene's been involved in a lot of bands, hasn't he? Where apart from, even if you cry back to Van Halen, how he was sort of like integral to them getting their record deal, even though he kind of like wanted to sign them and record them himself, and in the end, kind of like pushed them on to somebody else, didn't he? To do.
I think from what I can gather, I think Paul Stanley vetoed it, didn't he?
Yeah.
From being too time consuming
And better than them.
and possibly a threat. Yeah. Because I guess what we're talking 77, 78, you could probably see the wheels coming off your bus a little bit.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, back on
Yeah.
top.
They're going to record one of the most astonishing debut albums of all time, and we're going to record Dynasty.
still prefer Dynasty to Van Halen's first album.
Yeah, I've got
The problem with Van Halen is they were a, a party bar band with lots of cover versions, and it was super disjointed.
yeah,
All
no, I
their
do.
albums were all over the place.
Yeah, I'll link to them. I'll link. Do you want me to link to them now?
Go on then.
Because
I'm going to disagree with you though.
well, maybe you won't. I don't know because I've got Van Halen down in this list as well. So obviously, we've 1972. Van Halen started.
Wow.
1972.
So they have
So
5 years of rehearsing live.
before, yeah. Well, when you say rehearsing live, I mean if you
Well,
read
they were playing, weren't they?
yeah, if you read the absolutely phenomenal, I think both of us agree that it's probably the best rock and roll biography of all time. It's Crazy from the Heat by Dave Lee Roth.
Absolutely.
Absolutely brilliant book. Yeah, it was all kind of like yard parties and stuff, wasn't it? Where people were kind of like, you just sort of like hire a band in and you'd go and play in somebody's backyard, and then the whole neighborhood would turn up.
Good way of getting good though.
Yeah, what a fantastic way to cut your teeth. Really, really, just phenomenal. But yeah, so 72, and then Dave left in 85, and was replaced by Sammy Hagar, who obviously had his own career and done a couple of albums with Ronnie Montrose as well prior to that. So he was a super established kind of like, solo musician and, recording artist then. And he only played with them for 11 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Seemed
So,
longer.
yeah. But there was like a 2 year hiatus between him leaving and Gary Sharon from Extreme joining. And he did the dreadful
file just under Blaze Bayley.
Yeah, Van Halen 3 album, but he played with them for 2 years. And then Sammy Hagar rejoined 2003 to 2006. And then they had a falling out again. And then Diamond Dave joined back in 2006, went to 2012. And then they kind of like didn't really do anything after that, That was the last time they recorded anything, 2012. I mean, they did the live shows and stuff, and I've got the CD collection thing of the Tokyo Dome thing that they did with Dave, and it's just rubbish. It's awful. I gotta be honest.
Do you know what I love a lot of that early Van Halen stuff. It's fantastic, and when you see them live, you know why. But I was really into Sammy Hagar as a solo artist.
Yeah.
That Live Loud and is it Live Loud and Clear? Is that what the album's called?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a fantastic record. And I figured out eventually that the thing I really didn't like about Van Halen was Eddie Van Halen.
All right.
I get that he was a guitar hero, blah blah blah, but not for me.
No,
not for me. I thought it was. I've never liked that Widley.
No,
it just does nothing for me. I can't interpret it in any way. But but I do get it. But it's funny how Van Halen became even bigger
with Sammy
Hagar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in all honesty, I mean, what we ended up with was we were kind of lucky, really. We were spoiled then, weren't we? Because Dave went off and became Dave and just did Dave,
which was even better.
Yeah, and it was so much better than him being part of Van Halen. I thought,
Hmm.
you know. But then we ended up with Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, which was so much better than Van Halen with Dave, kind of thing, really. So we ended up with two really good groups instead of just one, you
You're
know.
probably right there. They
Yeah,
wrote some good songs together with Sammy.
yeah. I mean, that first album, that what was it E5150. You know, so it was just completely different to anything that they'd done before. And I mean, there was a lot. It was quite keyboard heavy because I know that Eddie was quite sort of like getting into his keyboards then, wasn't he? Started it in 1984, doing the 1984 album where there was a lot of keyboard stuff in there, especially Jump and stuff like that. And he carried on with that, which was okay because Sammy Hagar was a super proficient guitarist as well. So, so he could carry all the stuff while Eddie was doing something different, so it worked really, really well.
I know I'll be
Yeah.
shot in the street at dawn by snipers, but Sammy is a far superior guitarist to Eddie Van Halen.
You think?
Yeah, any day of the week.
I, I think I mean, it's probably just a matter of choice, I suppose, isn't it?
Nope.
You, you,
Nope.
you can
Nope.
certainly, if somebody was to play you, several pieces of music, you would certainly be able to identify what was Eddie Van Halen over anything else, wouldn't you? Really, I suppose.
Yeah, but you
Uh,
couldn't. You couldn't. You could say to Sammy, "Well, no one's turned up. You're going to have to do something by yourself." He'd go, "Okay." But if you went, "Hey Eddie, no one's turned up," he'd just play Eruption and variants thereof for
yeah,
how long? I'd have
yeah,
left. No, and I mean, sad in his passing. I get his place in history, blah blah, but nah, not for me.
no.
Afraid not. But I've got a segue now to something, haven't I? And I can't. We've,
We're
we've
running out of segues. No.
let me see. No, I can't do it with what's on my list. So I'm going to have to go for.
Sideways step.
It's not that sideways. Another huge band, and this is a weird one because this guy is the fourth singer that the band got in, and it's Steve Perry
Right,
from Journey, who is probably my favoritist singer of all time.
right.
Um, I love Journey because I'm a big pussy like that. Um, so yeah, he was. Greg Rowley was first. He
Yeah.
was okay. Um, the third one was Steve Smith, who didn't last very long. But interestingly, I don't. I only sort of. I knew this, but I only sort of took it into my brain a few years back that the second singer was Robert Fleischman,
Who was
who
the
was the
first?
singer in Vinnie Vincent
Yeah,
Invasion.
the first album, wasn't he?
But
Sung
that
and
was
thing.
like 10 years late. It must be a good 88, 98. I can't work it out. So it's not that long, maybe 7, 8 years later. But anyway, and again, it's another weird one, isn't it? Steve Perry, I'm fed up with this shit. I'm leaving. And you think journey's over. And then they go and find, what's his name?
So,
Um,
Arnell, Arnell,
Parnell, Parnell
Pineda,
or something like that.
Arnell Pineda,
Yeah, that's it.
who was working as a as a Journey cover singer, wasn't he? He was like
Yeah,
a Journey cover band. Yeah,
very, very strange.
yeah,
Um, but he's good. But he's a mimic.
yeah.
Um, and what nationality is he?
He's like he's like Haitian or something like that, isn't he? I think
Was he Filipino?
that's it. It might be that. Yeah,
But I think wherever he's from, they have a quite a heritage of being mimics. of like learning to to mimic quite exactly um,
Yeah,
different singers. Um, I don't know if it comes from a school of language or learning stuff or what, but damn, he was good. Um, but Steve Perry was fantastic. Those albums he did. I mean, the first few albums are kind of, I guess the band evolved as well because they came out of 1973,
yeah,
but it wasn't until Perry arrived really in 77, 78, um, when Perry took over that the band started getting really good. You must like
yeah.
Journey. You must do. I know you do.
Love, love Journey. Yeah,
Those four albums, which is Escape, Frontiers, and Raised on Radio, are my. Oh, that's three, isn't it? I meant three. Are they my holy trinity of Journey? After that, I can kind of walk. And I've not listened to any of their new stuff, to be honest.
no,
Um,
no. I think again, it's one of those sort of like, um, I mean, despite the fact that what is it, like High School Musical or whatever it is that dragged "Don't Stop Believing"
oh, yeah, that was.
and made it sort of like one of the most hideous karaoke songs ever.
It's funny,
You
isn't
know,
it, how a song that you can love for decades suddenly becomes the kiss of death.
yeah, and it's such a shame because because there's no way that you hear any other version, and it's just going to suck because it's not that version.
Yeah, damn, there's some
And that
good songs
version,
on that record.
yeah, it's just. I mean, it's just an amazing album. That is just a proper amazing album. That was one of the ones that sort of like came out while I was in school, and it was kind of like wow, just what a voice, what songs, just amazing guitarist as well, Neil Sean.
There's quite a gap, isn't there, between Frontiers and Raised on Radio?
Um,
Uh,
yeah, I think isn't that when didn't didn't he leave though and
because he went
record
to do his solo album, didn't he?
solo? Was it called Street Talk? Was it Street Talk?
It certainly was.
Yeah,
Well, it's not that long. Frontiers
no,
is 83, Raised on Radio is 86. So
yeah,
Street Talk is about 85, I think. Yeah, that
unless
sounds about right.
and we all went out and bought that as well because that's what you because you knew it was going to be good because it was Steve Perry, you know.
Yeah, that is 1984.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a great
So
record that is, too.
so 84 would have been, well, 84. I have to kind of like go by Kiss
Yeah.
around at that sort of time. So 84 was Animalize, which means that was the year of the first Bon Jovi album as well.
Yep.
So bleh, Bon Jovi, bleh. How
But
well we
but we're all
discussed that.
still riding with Pyromania is out by then.
Yeah,
That's still on the turntable.
yeah.
Good year. Good little period in rock that was. Anyway, I love Steve Perry. He can do what he likes. He can leave, shut up, go away forever. Um, I think it's right that he never joins Journey again. I hate it when bands get back together.
It's never the same, is it? You
Nope.
know, it's sort of
ABBA
like
should have stayed gone and just shut up,
yeah.
left it as it was.
We got divorced for a reason. Yeah. So I throw in something a little bit more, maybe a little bit more modern then now, shall I? Just
Oh,
just for the heck of it. Because now we're starting to get into the realms of where we're not going to be able to link from one from one band to another. I think
I can't.
perhaps.
I can.
Yeah.
And if I may jump in front of you,
Go for it.
It's a little bit of a niche thing, but Mark Slaughter replacing Robert Fleischman
Yeah,
in Vinnie Vincent was genius.
I have him down on the list.
Now, you can say what you like about Vinnie, but when he left Kiss, Kiss were a bit on the ropes.
Yeah.
And Vinnie Vincent Invasion was a freaking really good record. And
Yeah.
All Systems Go was even better. I think Vinnie was very forward thinking. Mind you, he didn't have anything to prove, did he?
No, but isn't it weird though? Because when he recorded the first album, the Invasion album, Robert Fleischman was the vocalist on the album, but he never actually showed up in any of the videos. So what they did was because they'd already sacked him and got Mark Slaughter in. Mark Slaughter appears in all of the videos
Yep.
for that first album,
Weird, huh?
and for him to have such a close voice as well to Fleischman as well, it was just like
Because if you didn't know, you probably wouldn't have known.
no. And what was I watching? I think I was what was it? Boys Wanna Rock. I think the other day I was watching Boys Wanna Rock, the video, uh, and Mark Slaughter looks incredible on it. I mean, he looks like he must be about 18 as well. I mean, I'm not sure how old he was when he joined, but he just looks amazing.
And I know Vinny's a bit of a everyone says lots of things about Vinny, but he knew what he was doing. But Dana Strum is no slouch.
No.
Ever. He's probably one of the best rock bassists out there. Who's he
certainly
playing with at the moment? He's still with Slaughter, isn't he? They're still out on the road, I think.
Who does he play with Ace Frehley as well? I think, doesn't he?
It's probably all the same band, isn't it? Don't Slaughter just go out with whoever will take them?
Yeah, but yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, he's a journeyman, isn't he? Definitely.
He's a huge producer person as well, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. But he's just a massive talent. Massive talent. Yeah. I kind of like keep thinking I've written stuff down here somewhere for about all of this stuff, and yet I can't find any of it.
Brilliant.
All of these things. He had something that actually linked there through a couple of those guys. So, but it's just for some reason it's just bypassed me. So I'll jump in with Tough, who you sent me a link about with a brilliant interview with Stevie Rochelle.
I did
earlier on, and I've gone back and looked through that guy's podcasts, and he's got some really good interviews on there, hasn't he? Yeah,
I'm working my way through it. It's called Straight to Video.
Straight to Video, yeah.
So if you're into that sort of our sort of music, he's stolen all our thunder.
But he kind of like interviews everybody, like you do on the Starfish and Coffee thing as well, like So
yeah, you'll do. You busy? No.
Anyway, so Tough. And what I didn't know while I was looking this up was that Tough is actually a type of rock made from volcanic ash.
I never knew that either.
TUFF, yeah. So I wonder if they knew when they actually called themselves that, or if they were just sort of like, just
nah.
Probably not. Probably not. But we were kind of like we were tape trading fans back in the day, weren't we? The early days of Tough, when Jim Gillette was the lead singer.
Jim Gillette off the heavy metal vocal school in the back of
school. Yeah.
That you could never afford.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't sing like Jim Gillette.
Yeah, I don't think anybody sings like Jim Gillette, do they? But he only he only did 2 years. So all that tape trading we did was only 2 years worth of him being in the band. Can you believe that? Before they got Stevie Rochelle in 1987. But this is where the link comes in now to the Vinnie Vincent thing, is that Jim Gillette, when he left, he went and joined or formed Nitro, didn't he? Which was kind of like a bit more, well, like you said, it's a bit more sort of like widdly guitar kind of oriented thing,
Very much.
which kind of suited his voice, I guess, as well. But Bobby Rock, was in Nitro,
Bloody hell.
so there you go. But yeah,
Was it?
Stevie Rochelle joined 1987. They've had a load of players with them as well, all the way through. The last thing they recorded was 2012. But I've written down here Journeyman again, because they've had John Corabi and Kerry Kelly in the band in that
Really?
time. Yeah. And what a great vocalist Stevie Rochelle is. Just brilliant. He was like Brett Michaels that could sing.
Well, yeah. Oh, hang on a minute. This is a bit of a shocker. Jim Gillette appears to be bald now. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had more hair than anyone ever. Um.
He had that kind of like big blonde Rothschild kind of thing going on, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he looks like Lita Ford. Anyway. I didn't know Bobby Rock was in that band too. Well, there you go.
But I love Tough. They were really, really good. And the demos that they did when Stevie Rochelle joined as well were really good. And then I think they kind of like the record company kind of watered them down a bit, because I think the demo versions of the songs that ended up on that first album were actually better than the ones that were on the album.
It's a good
But the
album
thing,
though.
yeah, but the thing that killed them though, really, was that all new generation thing where they sang about all of the other bands. And yet they kind of like, when they recorded the next album, they did something similar again. And they kind of like became a bit of a parody of themselves,
What's that
really.
called? That's called Bango the Bells, is it, or something like that?
I think that's got it's got a couple of titles, hasn't it? I think it was named. It had two different names in whichever country you were looking at it.
Okay. Fist First, apparently.
Fist First. That's the version I've got. Fist
Okay.
First is the version I've got.
I may have made that up then.
No, no, no. Yeah, Fist First, but it was also released as Religious Fix.
Right.
And then they did What Comes Around Goes Around was the first album that they did proper, and then they did another version. What Comes Around Goes Around Again, where it was kind of like it was all remixed, sort of like versions of the same stuff with some additional stuff, and some of the stuff that they'd done with they'd done with Jim Gillette, but re-recorded, like Down on Sinner Street and um, You Want Trouble, all that sort of stuff. Round them up, so it was like the real early
All
stuff
the
got
good
thrown.
stuff.
Well, yeah,
Interesting. They were a good band. They were so much better than Poison.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Although
like I said,
it's sad for me to wrong of me to lump them in really, but because they're more like Warrant, weren't they? They had a little bit more about them.
yeah, I think so. I was just trying to think what the other version, the other thing was that they did. There was, like I say, there was tied to the bells. That was what
That's it.
the first track on them.
Okay.
Fist Fit. Yeah, tied to the bells.
Not totally making it up then.
No, no. But like I said, they ended up becoming a bit of a parody of themselves because of that one song, which is a which was a real shame because I think that they really had something, you know. And they were a proper band, and he was a kind of like a proper sort of heartthrob kind of guy, wasn't he? He had a really good voice, great range, and
Yeah.
I think their guitarist, what was his name, George. He had the biggest hair I've ever seen. It was, I mean, proper.
Bigger than Jim Gillette.
Yeah, not sort of like even backcombed. It was just like a fucking mane. That thing. It was huge.
Tell me about George the Saint, right?
George the Saint, yeah. Just look at the pictures of him from that age, from that period. His hair was just. I've never seen anything like it. You know.
Ah, right, yeah.
It's just huge.
Good work, that man.
Mm.
It's no wonder we struggled.
There was some stiff competition out there.
There was,
There, re-
wasn't there?
there really was, yeah.
Not only is his hair massive, it's also curly.
Yeah. So it's not like I say, it's not just sort of like back combed,
There's
like
probably
they
another 6 inches in there if you straightened it. Wow.
massive.
Good band. I didn't think of that one. That's a good one.
Mm.
That's a good one. Um, Let me delete some of these. Done that one. Hmm. Should we cover the obvious? Um, the obvious. Well, I like John Corabi a lot. You like John Corabi a lot,
Yeah.
and he has replaced many people in many bands, and may have been better than the vast majority of them. But I'm going to throw in Corabi into the crew. I just thought it made them a. I think Corabi joining the crew allowed Mick to do something else because Karabi's no slouch on guitar.
Yeah.
He's one of the best modern rock singers in that we've got. Um, he he released Nicky from well, once Nicky wasn't filling in rhythm from them having just one guitarist. He got let loose, and it freed up Tommy as well, and they just became a really great, well-rounded band who wrote proper songs that didn't make them sound like they were stuck in 1981.
Yeah.
And that's what Karabi brought to the crew for me. But he also replaced the original singer in the Dead Daisies.
All right. Okay.
I can't remember his name. I think he's an Australian guy. Um, so that's another win. He then replaced many people. Oh, Christ, he's been in Rat
Yeah.
for a long time. He was in. Blimey, help me out here. What other bands has he been in?
Well, he was in Tough, like I said before. Then he was in. He played in Tough for a little while. He's
He's the Jizzy Pearl of guitar.
yeah. He's another proper journeyman, isn't he? Where
Just wants to
so
work.
yeah.
Let's see. He's been in. Of course, he's been in lots of bands. Who did he actually replace though? Hmm, nobody, apart from Vince, really, and the guy in the Dead Daisies.
I didn't know
Um,
he replaced Billy the Dead. I thought I thought the Dead Daisies was kind of like something that he'd created with the other guys like but no, that's interesting though.
no, they. I think he's. I think he was Australian, the original guy. Let's have a look. Blah 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 blah. Formed in 2012. Um, what the bloody hell is your name, Mister?
Because when they when they when they released that first album, I think this was the time when classic rock magazine were kind of like every now and again, as opposed to because every month you'd get like um, a CD with sort of like numerous bands on it. You know, some up and coming, some classic rock bands. You know,
Yep.
all this sort of stuff. But every now and again, they would throw in a full album by somebody. You know, and the Dead Daisies was one of them. I got the first Dead Daisies album free with classic rock. You know, and you just think, why? why? Why are you giving this album away? It's fantastic. And Karabi's got such a great voice. And you just think he's one of those people where you think he's destined to never be the rock star that he should be.
Yeah, I can't fight. I can't. I think he realizes that as well. It's either David Lowie or John Stevens, but I can't figure out which one it is. The first lineup had Richard Fortus in it as well.
Oh, Nine Inch Nails.
Uh, yeah, and
Uh,
Guns N'
uh,
Roses,
GNR, yeah.
Psychedelic Furs as well.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that either.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think they were just like a two-bit band really before. I mean, they've had so many people in the band: Marco Mendoza, Dizzy Reed, Brian Tichy, Daryl Jones, John Tempesta. Just a huge revolving list. The band at the moment is pretty good with Glenn Hughes, actually.
Yeah. Maybe it's
Um,
maybe it's kind of like one of those bands like Joe Elliott's Down and Outs, where you kind of like just keep
Pretty
getting
much,
all
yeah.
these just sort of like superb musicians into to just sort of like record and play with, you know.
Well, the original singer is John Stevens. He's a New Zealander um, who came out of Jesus Christ Superstar, apparently.
All right.
Anyway,
Which is which is um, which is another little link to us watching the War of the Worlds
oh,
thing the other night on Sky Arts with
was weird, wasn't it?
the guy from Jet Black as the as one of the main characters in it. Yeah, that was just and we both went, who's this dude?
You ever heard of the band Jet Black?
I've heard of Jet Black,
Okay,
yeah,
I
but
haven't.
I wouldn't have known him from it. Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
wasn't sort of wasn't that thing. They were just one of those a number of bands that came out sort of like in the 2000s that were sort of like like they're one of the bands that you would get free.
Right.
You'd get a free song with classic rock sort of thing, and you'd listen to it and go,
That's okay. Next.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Hit me with
yeah.
another. Hit me with
What
another.
I'm gonna go a little bit mental here then, because this is not really. It is kind of replacing, and it kind of isn't as well. So my next one is, and I may be being a little bit sneaky, and you may want to punch me in the face for this one, but I'm going to say Chris Cornell and Audio Slave, because cheating it may be, but Audio Slave basically is Rage Against the Machine,
Yep.
but Zach De La Rocca left, so they brought Chris Cornell in and instantly improved.
Well, as you know, I'm a massive, massive Cornell fan.
Yeah.
The goddamn Soundgarden are hard to get on with sometimes. Um, and I thought Audio Slave were just fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Um,
So it's a
yeah.
good cheat. You can have that one.
Yeah. There was, I say, it just, I think he came up with the name as well. If I remember rightly, reading an interview with what's his name? The guitar player, he's just mega guy, isn't he? Just
Ba, 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 ba. I cannot remember, which is really pathetic. What is his name?
um, Morello, Tom
Tom.
Morello.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, I was reading an interview with him, and he was sort of like saying about what happened, and Zach leaving the band, and it was all kind of like didn't know where to go, and they all kind of the rest of the band just kind of like said, well, fuck it, we like playing together. Fuck him, let's get a new guy in. And what a guy to get in! What a guy to get in, Chris Cornell. I mean, just
brave move for all of them, I think.
yeah. But I can't really. I mean, I don't know much about that transition period, so I don't know whether or not they kind of like they did any Rage Against the Machine songs and Chris Cornell sang them or what. I don't.
Don't
Oh,
think so. No,
no.
no.
I mean,
I think there was a refusal on both parts.
I think that's a wide move because I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah, it would have been like Velvet Revolver going out and doing a bit of GNR and a bit of um, Stone Temple Pilots. Where'd you draw the line?
Yeah,
But no, I thought Audio Slave were a fantastic band. That first
yeah,
album's great, but I think Chris was not in a good place with the old
yeah,
Amber Nectar at the time.
yeah.
Um,
But I mean, you and I both said that if you were to sort of like if you were to name top five vocalists of all time, he would definitely be in that list, in that top five, most definitely.
Damn, he might even replace Steve Perry.
He's just got an amazing voice, hasn't he? And I'd say, of all of the people in the world, if there was anyone I could sing like, the two people would be him and Ronnie James Dio. I think they're both they're my favourite vocalists. The two of
Wow,
those.
I think I'd go for Chris and I don't know, Lane maybe,
Yeah,
which sort of segues nicely. Although I won't kill this one just yet. But it's giving it away now.
yeah, go for
In
it.
fact, it's not even a thing. I don't think William Duval was a better vocalist than Lane Staley because he's not. But out of all the people in the world you could find to replace him, it's pretty fucking close.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been listening to The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here this week. That's been my my playlist for most of this week, to be honest. And a little bit of Rainier Fog, but mostly that second album that they did, and he's he just works so well with Jerry Cantrell, doesn't he? You
Yeah.
know, again, in the same way that Lane Staley did, it's the harmonies that they do just fantastic.
I think that's the key to Alice in Chains not falling apart is that um, Cantrell had a far bigger role as part of the band than people probably thought.
Yeah,
Like vocally, piecing it all together. I mean, his solo albums are phenomenal.
yeah.
But the fact that he was still there, I always forget the other guy that died in Alice in Chains. What's his name?
I've got him listed here, Mike Starr, the
Mike
bass player.
Starr.
Yeah,
It's a shame he gets overlooked.
Well, he was. This is another one of those things where we were saying about nobody ever remembers the bass players or nobody cares about the bass players. But again, Mike Starr, 6 years with Alice in Chains over the sort of like the formative years where it was sort of like the real important sort of like beginnings and stuff, and then like you said, death by well
Substances.
delinquency,
Yeah.
yeah. And he got replaced by Mike Inez, who's been with them ever since, still with
Who's
them now.
far
83,
superior as a bass player as well.
fantastic bass player, incredible.
Great
And
band.
I was also watching the other day. Jerry Cantrell was playing with Heart on, I think it was some kind of like award ceremony thing for Heart. and he came on, and I forget what the song was that they were doing, but it was they decided they were going to do a couple of Alice in Chains songs anyway, because obviously both from Seattle, Heart and Alice in Chains.
Don't Heart own the only recording studio in Seattle?
Yeah, and
everybody seems to record there.
Yeah, and they've been great supporters of Alice as well, like through all that period and stuff. And William Duval had just joined the band, but they weren't gonna. But Ann Wilson was going to sing the songs with, but something happened anyway on the way out, and she was running a little bit late, so she said, "Go and knock yourself out." And it was his first introduction to playing live with Alice in Chains.
I've seen it. It's great, isn't it?
Playing with Alice in Chains and Heart at this show, and he properly nailed it as well, And then Ann Wilson just ended up singing backing vocals, but it was just like, it was fantastic. Really, really good gig. Really good gig.
And
you can find that on YouTube.
Yeah, you can. Along with, you must have seen the Dad Rock Band sketch.
Yes.
If you're listening, go type into YouTube Dad Rock Jerry Cantrell. Brilliant little 5-10 minute comedy sketch. Brilliant. But their albums after that didn't. Maybe they're not classic Alice in Chains. There's nothing like Rain When I Die and Rooster on them, but they don't.
Was it. Rooster, that was the first song he sang with them. That was the one.
But they're not bad albums at all. They're solid. They stand up on their own.
Yeah, fantastic.
And William Duval's solo album was my favorite album. That was my number one album of whatever year it came out. 2020, 2019, maybe. Fucking excellent record.
And he's done some, he's done some off the wall stuff. I still haven't heard this Giraffe Orchestra thing that he's done, but the other bands that he's been in have all been sort of like, more punky than grungy kind of thing, so apart from the what was the last one he was in where we were watching the video, weren't we, the live video thing that I sent you the other day. What's the name of the band? I can't remember, but again, you could see that he was going to be a perfect fit for Alice in Chains from that band,
What the hell was his first band called? They were a strange band, weren't they? Because he was hard. Neon Christ,
right?
They're like a hardcore punk band.
Yeah, proper sort of black kind of deal going on, wasn't it?
But yeah, there's so yeah, maybe not too legitimate things there with Cornell and Duval, but awesome all the same.
Yeah,
excellent.
Giraffe Tongue Orchestra. That's
good stuff.
Yeah. I need to do a bit of digging there, I think.
No, these podcast things never end, do they? With wandering off down. The Devil Put
Yeah,
Dinosaurs Here. That's what that Alice album's called. I really like
yeah.
that.
The second one was it
Yeah.
Black Gives Way to Blue, the first one or something? Was
Black
it
Gives
Black?
Way to Blue, yeah. And then
Yeah,
Rainier Fog was a little bit under par, I thought, but One Alone um, is superb. Anyway, yeah. There you go. Your
we
turn.
better do some classic rock then. And we'll say Black Sabbath.
Ooh, I thought you were going to pick the same one that I picked.
Oh, maybe that's also in my list. You never know. this list as long as my arm. Which is funny because when we first discussed it, I thought kind of like, oh, how am I going to get five people out of this? And then all of a sudden you kind of like realize, you get, Jesus, yeah. So Black Sabbath, I'll go for Black Sabbath. And I mean, we'll forget about the later iterations of the band where they've had so many singers and so many different, lineups and stuff that it wasn't Black Sabbath anymore. But for the main part, it was Ozzy, who was 68 to 79, massive volume of work there, classic Sabbath, but was replaced only for 3 years by Ronnie James Dio,
Really?
who brought they recorded two albums proper in Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, and they did the Live Evil album as well. And those were the only three albums that Black Sabbath recorded at that time with Ronnie. Now he came back later on and did another couple of albums in different periods of time, but yeah, it was just sort of like, what a voice and what a great kind of like what a great addition to an already great band that had that sort of like work, that that volume of work. To hear it replayed with Ronnie's voice instead of Ozzy's, some just gave a new dimension to everything. And the two studio albums that they recorded together were just fantastic. Love Ronnie.
I think that's the same deal as we were talking about with Bruce Dickinson, because
Yeah,
Ronnie had a vision and he slotted it into Sabbath somehow.
yeah.
Well, a couple of great albums. I'm not the biggest fan in the world, but I'd take Ronnie over Ozzy any day.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because obviously after he left, they got Ian Gillan in for the one album. I can't remember the name of it now. But obviously it was the one that had Stonehenge on it, and which kind of like contributed to the Spinal Tap thing with the
right, yeah.
bringing the Stonehenge down at Reading or whatever it was that they played the gig and everything, all that sort of stuff. Like, and I really like that album. Born
Again.
I really like that album. I've got to be honest, and loads of people slagged it off and said, "Oh, it's Gillan, it's not," But I did really like it, and I
think I saw something yesterday actually about Gillan saying he got sent a copy, put it on in his car or put it on wherever, and then threw it out the window because he hated it.
Really,
I think so.
no, they got together through, they were just sort of like, him and Tony Iommi were just chatting in a pub one night.
Right, yeah.
Tony Iommi said sort of like, you want to play with the band? And Gillan went, well, yeah, I'm not doing anything. Yeah, all right then, yeah. It was kind of like that, It was that sort of, that loosely kind of like, arranged sort of thing. I thought, it was just a really good album. But at the time, it was weird because they had they got Bev Bevan from ELO on the drums on that album as well.
All right, didn't know that.
Yeah, and then because Vinny Appice had been playing with them for the two albums that they did with Dio, who went off then to play with Dio in Dio's band. But also, did you know Eric Singer played for them
Really?
for a little while? Yeah. And did you know that Ron Keel did as well?
Really?
Ron Keel played with them. I can't remember. It's 1984. 1984 did a stint with Black Sabbath. Yeah, no recordings, so I'm assuming it's just a couple of live shows. But yeah,
Wow.
how bizarre.
Um,
Uh, but yeah, then it all kind of like turned to shit, really, didn't it? And they had sort of like a different vocalist and a different kind of band, really, apart from their. Well, I mean, even Geezer Butler, I don't think stayed with Tony Iommi for all of those forthcoming albums after that.
no.
He had Neil Murray and stuff playing with him as well. Who was another journeyman. White Snake and
What's interesting here? Let me throw my next one in because there's a lot of crossover. Um, I'm a real arse when it comes to like love or hate, and I really dislike Ian Gillan for many reasons. And I thought David Coverdale was a brilliant replacement. And that'll rattle a lot of cages. But there's a big crossover with um, Ronnie Dio and probably rather a lot of people. I can't think of the because Gillan replaced Dio in the butterfly ball thing that who the bloody hell put that together? John Lord and Glover.
yeah,
So there's loads of incestuousness going on at this time, and it makes it seem like there's only 10 great musicians in the whole of the world that can operate these massive bands.
yeah.
I don't think Dio was ever in Deep Purple, was he?
No, but
Not
again,
officially.
no, but he was in Rainbow, wasn't he? So when Blackmore left Rainbow, left Deep Purple and formed Rainbow, he
Yeah.
grabbed Deep from Elf, and I think there was always kind of like a tension between them because the first album was called Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, and I think that Ronnie Dio thought that it was going to be more of a band. And then when Richie sort of like went, no, this is my band, kind of like Ronnie was like, well, maybe it should be Richie Blackmore's Rainbow featuring Ronnie James Dio. So, but I mean, they put three albums together, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did Richie Blackmore's Rainbow and Long Live Rock and Roll
And the other one.
um,
What is the other one called?
which is the Rainbow Rising,
Yeah.
which has got Stargazer on it, which is one of those songs that always ended up in the top 5 rock songs of all time.
It was almost Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah,
but not quite.
It was always in there on every year when Tommy Vance did his tonight on the Friday Rock Show. We're going to do the top 40, the top 40 rock tunes of all. It was always in there. That was one of the top 5 every year, along with Stairway to Heaven and Rush's 2112. And then you could just sort of like stick another couple in there that were,
But they were probably, again, those other two were probably big, sweeping Bohemian Rhapsody type things, right? That's probably in there.
Yeah. Probably. It probably was. Yeah.
And then probably Freebird, right, for the hippies.
for the for the extended 10-minute guitar solo. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I put Deep Purple in this list as well because, like I say, when Gillan left, you know,
you'd think it'd be over, wouldn't you?
yeah. But the thing was though is that it was such a weird move to take two people on to do lead vocals, wasn't it? Well, Coverdale and Glenn Hughes, and yet it worked really, really well.
Because
And
Coverdale didn't need backing up.
no, not at all, not at all. He's just got the best blues rock and roll voice, hasn't he? He really has. But Glenn Hughes has just got this massive fucking range, and he's still got the same range now.
Well, we
You
looked
know?
at those videos, didn't we? And it's amazing how much he actually contributed
Yeah,
vocally to, on a live basis, at least.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's a weird setup though that because I think they've been going since '68, Deep Purple, and to a degree, I suppose they are still going now, aren't they? But obviously with a number of, I think there's only Ian Pace and Ian Gillan that are, or maybe Roger Glover's in there as well, I suppose. But so the first guy, Rod Evans,
is Roger Glover the only guy that hasn't ever left the band?
I think so. Well, no, he played with Rainbow as well, though, didn't he? Did he? Did he do? Did he do Deep Purple and Rainbow at the same time? I don't know. I
Would
don't
he have
know.
been allowed?
But maybe. But Gillan only did 4 albums with him.
Yeah. Not many, is it?
No, and then Coverdale Hughes did 3 albums, and then when they left, they brought Tommy Bolin in, obviously, who did the 1 album, but he died after that, 1976.
He did. I was just going to throw that in there, being as
Yeah,
he's my guitar hero.
yeah,
Um,
which is a real shame. But he's again for such a young guy, he had a really big body of work again, didn't he? And he was, sort of like not just a rock guitarist, but he sort of
no,
like
flamenco,
folk.
blues, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
He was the Steve Stevens of the early 70s.
yeah, I think he was. I think, yeah,
But that's heroin for you.
yeah. Unfortunately, I
Yeah.
suppose you can only usually afford when you become a guitarist with Deep Purple. So,
I'm sure
which
the
is why,
paycheck was all right, wasn't it?
which is why you and I are still here.
Yeah.
Can't afford it.
Not allowed into Deep Purple. I mean, for me saying I really don't like Gillan, I just there's something about him I don't like, but some of the stuff he recorded is fantastic, really. Although I never really listened to it, but Machine Head's an excellent album.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Space Trucking, Highway Star. Really, really good songs. The
man,
Dread
we've
on the
named
Wall.
about 6 different replacements there in the space of 2 bands.
Yeah,
Because it could be argued, although this isn't on my list and it may be on yours, that replacing Ronnie in Rainbow
yeah.
did not end in disaster.
No, Joe Lynn Turner. No, he's on my list as well. I put him as a sort of like a sidebar again for that.
And the other guy, Graham Bonnet, wasn't half bad either.
No, no. Yeah, sorry, I forgot him. Sorry, yeah. But he only did 1 album, didn't he? He did.
Is that Bent Out of Shape?
No, Down to Earth.
Okay, right.
He did Down to Earth, but I know that there was. I mean, he had an amazing voice, but and a couple of massive hit singles off that album. But again, he had a falling out with Richie Blackmore over recording.
What a surprise.
It was, yeah, I know, yeah. there's a yeah. Can you see a theme appearing? It was something to do with the fact that he needed to be. Um, he felt that he needed to be recorded in a certain kind of way, and Richie Blackmore was kind of like, "No, we're going into this castle, and you're just going to sing," sort of thing, you know. And he was kind of like, "No, I need a, you know, I don't need a pop up studio in somewhere else. I need to be recording in a proper studio with this, that, and the other, where they can, you know, do whatever they do with my voice." And Richie Blackmore was kind of like, "No, we're getting this castle, and you're going to sing in it, mate." You know, it's kind of like,
Here's a weird thing for you. Just sorry, just on this page. Um, after a band called the after the Javelins, Gillan joined a soul band called Wainwright's Gentlemen, which included future Sweet member Mick Tucker.
yeah,
So the whole thing is incestuous as hell. I guess these were the days when if you worked and you had an agent or whatever, or you were on the road, you just make friends over a beer with someone, right? And
yeah,
you'd all just know each other. And
yeah. It's
everyone
not,
was just trying to get somewhere, so you'd jump and go.
yeah, it's not like there was. It's not like there wasn't a plethora of musicians. It's like you said. It's just that everybody hung out with everybody else, and at some point, you were gonna chat to somebody in a pub, kind of like, fancy doing a bit of this? Yeah, no, yeah,
Weird. Let's.
yeah,
I'm not sure how long we've got left, but that's a good couple of hours there. So let's do the
yeah.
rest another day
Okay,
and have a nice long 4 hour episode for everybody.
cool.
Or I might put this one out and we'll just do another part two. But
I've still got a lot on this list.
yeah, I got 3 or 4 left. But just quite strange. Um, I mean, Gillan's played with Bernie Tormey, which brings us back to Phil Lewis.
Yeah,
Um, Tormey, what's this? Following subsequent album Future Shock, Tormey left following disagreements over finances. And after missing an appearance on Top of the Pops, he was replaced by Yannick Gers.
who went to play with Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Yannick Gers was in the Ian Gillan band for a couple of years.
weird, isn't
Uh,
it?
and they would what did they do? Uh, God, what are the names of the album? I can't remember the names of the albums, but he did. At that point, he was doing things like Mutually Assured Destruction and No Laughing in Heaven, stuff like that. Yannick Gers played on, and then Yannick Gers ended up joining Iron Maiden from the Ian Gillan band. Yeah, and he's still with them now. So yeah,
Strange. How many guitarists have Iron Maiden got? 3.
3. Yeah,
Man, we couldn't even work with one. I wonder how that must. I don't know. It must be a very technical thing to get that working in harmony.
yeah. It's not one of those things that you would think so, like, you know, oh, let's wait a minute and see if Bruce Dickinson wanders on stage with an acoustic as well. You know, no, oh, Bruce.
Don't need one.
But I kind of like that guitar thing because you know there's a lot of bands now where they do twin guitar harmonies and stuff like that, and it leaves a big hole behind if you haven't got somebody playing rhythm behind it.
Yeah,
So you know, so 3 is better than 2.
it's a good point. It's a good point. But but I don't know. I guess it all depends on if you've got your production sorted out, because otherwise you end up with no songs.
Yeah,
Just
I
to,
guess it's like I guess it's like having two guitar players and a keyboard player, isn't it? Though well, you sort of like you just change the keyboard player for another guitar player. You could play something different again.
yeah.
I like it. I like three guitar. I'm not I say I've got all the Iron Maiden stuff. I'm not their biggest fan.
I have
Not
never, ever, ever listened to anything apart from watching that show a few months back from download and whatever has passed me by on the radio. It's one of them, sometimes you just take an instant dislike to a band
yeah.
for no reason at all. That's Iron Maiden for me. People go, "What sort of music you like?" And you go, "Rock," and they're like, "Oh yeah, Iron Maiden," and you're like, "No,
Motorhead.
yeah, no." Never liked Motorhead either.
No, I
What do you
nearly
think?
got. I,
I'd
I
rather
nearly
listen.
got.
I'd rather listen to Randy Crawford and Luther Vandross.
I nearly got into a fight with somebody on a on a railway station coming back from a Kiss gig once and I don't know why. I don't know why I did it, but we come back from Kiss. We're standing at a railway station, and this guy is there. Him and a couple of mates, and all leather jackets and Motorhead patches and everything. All right, well, you've been to see Kiss, yeah? Okay, any good? Yeah, really good. Yeah. Do you like Motorhead? And I just went, "Ugh." And he just went, "I'm going to punch you in the face now." And I thought, I don't know why I did that, because I've got like the first three fucking Motorhead albums, and I've got like about five different versions of the Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers EP. So clearly, I like them enough to buy something. But why on earth would I just go and do that in front of somebody? Oh,
Funny, isn't it?
teenager, what a fool.
But I did figure out for myself. It was about my. But then it's weird because I love Dio. I was going to say I don't like all that fantasy stuff that Iron Maiden do, but I love Dio,
Yeah,
and I love Coheed and Cambria, who took it to the nth level.
yeah.
It's just something about Maiden that just makes me go, no, no, thanks. I'll go and I'll go and wash up.
The thing that I don't like about Iron Maiden, which is probably the thing that all the Iron Maiden fans do like about Iron Maiden, is the bass playing. And I know that he's the main man, but it's and he's an incredible bass player. But he kind of like he plays the guitar riff on the bass,
So
and
it's four
sometimes
guitarists.
yeah, and sometimes you just want the bass to be playing, playing the E string, and just give it the while everybody else is doing all the other bits.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing that kind of like that's the bit that I don't like of it all, really, is that, like I said, that I'd rather he actually did play some bottom end bass rather than sort of like mimicking the riffs and stuff like. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange how music music taste goes, isn't it? I mean, I thought when Steve Vai was in Dave Lee Roth's band, I thought it was phenomenally awesome.
Yeah,
And then I thought you might as well have got me in to White Snake as Steve Vai because he just spoilt it
yeah,
beyond spoiled. And all of his solo stuff I hate.
yeah,
And yet, so maybe it's all about chemistry and certain chemistry things work and some don't and it comes across to the listener or the reader. It's weird,
yeah,
very weird.
yeah.
Very, weird.
Some. There at the time, though, wasn't there? There was that massive sort of like influx of Widley guitar players, wasn't there? That started off with Yngwie Malmsteen and classical guitarists playing metal sort of thing, and then, like you said, Steve Vai and
Satriani for
Joe
me as
Satriani,
well.
yeah, and People like Tony McAlpine, all that stuff, the Racer X stuff that came out.
I was going to say
Sort
Marty Feldman. Then that's
of
wrong, isn't it?
Marty
Marty
Friedman.
Friedman. I don't think Marty Feldman could play guitar, but it just lost me. But then it was a sign of the times, right? It just was. Everyone wanted to be Eddie.
Yeah, but you think now that, I mean, even now there's sort of like still bands that are making a career on that kind of stuff, like Dragon Force, which is just kind of like, it's like classical guitar played at 1,000,000 miles an hour. With, we've got to play 50 notes a second, and
Not for me.
no,
I brought
not
up
for
on
me.
Ace Frehley, damn it.
Yeah. That sort of like, lurching, drunken rock and roll kind of, you know,
Whoops, I missed the note.
yeah, never mind.
I can't remember the name of this band. Who's the name of the band? They're kind of like Dragon Force, but they're not Dragon Force. And they play the same sort of music. I was talking about 2004, 2005. I went to interview them, and I had an afternoon slot about 2 o'clock, and they went, "Oh yeah, the band are downstairs." And I went downstairs, and there was this big table with apples and oranges on it, and like a big vegetarian healthy spread. And then just to the side of it was a weights bench and loads of weights. And it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. I can't remember what they're called. They're called begins with a T. Sounds like tetanus, but it's um damn, I can't remember. Anyway, it's the first time I've ever seen anything like that.
Not Testament, not the thrash band Testament. No,
Trivium.
no. Trivium. Oh, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I completely and utterly lost all respect for them just out of seeing their lunch and this weights bench, because it wasn't really my sort of thing anyway. But
Yeah.
it was like, what the hell is this? That's not what I'm used to seeing cocaine off album covers and chocolate bar wrappers and 6-pack of
Yeah.
special brew. And but
4 bottles of JD, yeah.
I don't think they're. I think that's probably the norm now, or a lot more of the norm than it was back then. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just, I, do you need to take that with you if you're going on a promo tour and stuff? Can you not, just nick off to a gym afterwards or something? Or,
You probably can these days.
yeah.
You can do that gym hopping thing, can't you? Where you just sign up and go wherever you are. But
Yeah.
I suppose it might be a bit of a grind if you were David Coverdale and everyone knew you were. But you could stand next to Trivium in McDonald's, right, and not know who they were, frankly. My next one is Razzle in Hanoi Rocks.
Wow.
Um, I, I, I don't necessarily think he was a better drummer than Jip Casino, but in terms of helping to push the band forward and being a bit more like a band, I think he was probably on the nose.
Oh, I think he certainly improved things with his demeanor. I think, didn't he? He was a personality.
Well, it was all a bit serious, wasn't it, until Razzle came along?
Yeah,
Or a bit Scandinavian, perhaps.
yeah. I think perhaps some much needed humor injected into the whole thing,
which really was necessary at that point, I think. Ray Zell posted a picture of him. Did you know he was in Marionette?
Razzle.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, not Ray, you dick.
I kind of knew Ray was. Yeah. No.
Yeah, Razzle used to drum for Marionette a few times.
Wow. No.
In Stack Heels.
Wow. That's some that's
Being a
some
drummer
serious
yourself,
commitment there.
yeah, being a drummer yourself, how does that pan out?
Yeah, I can't
Difficulty,
see that happening, to be honest. I mean, Peter Chris didn't do it, and Eddie, what's his face from Rothschild, didn't do it.
didn't he? I'm disappointed.
No,
Eddie Starr, I'm
Eddie,
disappointed by that.
no. If you have a look, they all play in trainers or soft shoes. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine playing the drums in stack heel boots.
I'm not sure how stacky they were, but that's what the caption says on the photo.
And that probably kind of like it probably explains why Marionette ended up sounding like Marionette if that was the case.
Yeah, I mean he's not on the album at all, but um yeah, I don't know a whole lot about Razzle actually, and what he did before or after. I've never needed to.
No, Nicholas Dingley, his name was, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
The, the only thing really, I mean, he did some vocals on Two Steps from the Move. Yeah,
yeah, he
uh,
did Boiler,
he
didn't
did.
he?
He did Boiler. Yeah,
And he
um,
and he did that funny bit in
cut
Cutting
corners,
Corners.
cutting corners. Yeah, yeah. I
But
said,
yeah,
leave it, mate.
I don't know a whole lot about him apart from that. But not the greatest
Uh,
drummer in the world, but he never had to be. That wasn't the point.
no, unfortunately, he died in the car accident that involved Vince Neil, didn't he?
Fatty Neil, yeah.
Which was a terrible waste, a terrible waste. And what makes it worse is that I have a box set, a Motley Crue box set, which is called "Music to Crash Your Car To,"
Yeah, they're
and
pretty unapologetic, aren't they?
yeah, it just seems really kind of crass and yeah, like you said, unapologetic. So it's really cringy, really. And who knows what would have happened with Hanoi after that if he if he'd stayed there and they hadn't gone through that traumatic experience. I think didn't they after that didn't they use didn't Terry Chimes come in from who'd been playing with the Clash
He did, yeah,
after that?
yeah.
Because I'm sure I remember seeing them on uh, the Pink Pop Festival. I'm
Yep.
sure it was Pink
And they
Pop
also,
Festival.
I think they also did um, an episode of Razzmatazz with him, perhaps,
Really,
uh,
yeah.
doing "Don't You Ever Leave Me." Usually, um, I don't know. I think they'd have split up. To be honest, I don't think that album is compared to what came before. I don't think Two Steps from the Move is that good.
No,
I think it got Bob Ezrin.
it's certainly more commercial, isn't it? It's certainly more commercial than the rawness of the previous albums.
Yeah, not my Hanoi.
No, and I've got to admit, I came to the Hanoi party quite late. My first album that I actually bought was Back to Mystery City, and it was only because somebody had lent me uh, Hanoi Rock Saigon Shakes, and what was the one before that?
No, that's the first one. Oriental Beat comes next.
Oriental Beat. Those two. Somebody had lent me those two, and then when I they were releasing Back to Mystery City, so I ordered it through the aforementioned
Woo!
records in Bangor. And it came through as a limited edition white vinyl, which I was really, really pleased with. What a
Nice.
great album it was as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I came in a tiny bit earlier with um the other one, the other album, Self Destruction Blues, which
yeah, that's
which is my favorite. But I never knew till recently it's not really an album. It's just a bunch of demos, outtakes, B-sides that never got released.
oh really?
But it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Who knew?
but well, I guess I guess that's the kind of band they were, though, wasn't it? There's sort of like so much output and so much, so
Yeah.
many. I mean, even now, I'm still finding things on the internet where sort of like the stuff that they did when they reformed and did that was it Street Poetry
Street
album,
poetry's
and
not bad actually, is it?
yeah, yeah, it's surprisingly a lot better revisited than it was when it first came out, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously the Demolition 23 stuff and that, Um,
I also didn't know that Andy wouldn't let Mike write any songs. So all the way up to Mystery City, Andy wrote everything.
oh,
Like, wow, what a talent.
yeah,
I mean, some seriously good work going on there.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And he did that album with Nasty Suicide as well, didn't he? The Silver.
Silver missiles and nightingales. Yeah. I love that record.
That's
I
the
love any
one.
record that where people sing worse than me.
Yeah.
So that one, anything by Nicky Sudden, Dave Cosworth, the later Tyler stuff. There's quite a lot of it.
Oh man, I remember that album. That's one of those ones. Do you remember there was a certain ex girlfriend from Liverpool who kind of like managed to filch all of my really cool stuff like that. I think she took the Smash albums and she took the early Mike Monroe albums, and that was another one that disappeared. And yeah,
Of all the albums to Nick, the Suicide Twins, you can't get it's really, really hard to get your hands on it. It's on YouTube,
yeah,
but bloody impossible to find.
yeah.
I think they only printed 9 copies originally.
Nine, and I had one of them.
Yeah, I had
Damn it.
one too. My friend John had one. My friend Daryl had one.
Yeah,
Jeff probably had one. That's 5. Andy and Nasty probably kept one each.
yeah, and one for their mums as well. So that's it.
God love them. But then there's also Razzle's also on the Fallen Angels album with Knox.
All right,
Let's
right.
not forget that either.
Yeah, I'm sure I had a copy of that as well. Actually,
Yeah, I think
now
you
you
did. I
mentioned
think you
it.
did.
Is that the one that had the really shit cover? I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Now,
have to.
if you go and hunt down on if you hunt down Knox on the internet, which he's got a website that looks like it was built in when they signed the Magna Carta. But I think that original painting is for sale at some astronomical sum, or it used to be. Um, and there's a Fallen Angels 2 album as well.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's.
You found it.
Oh yeah, dear, oh dear. Yeah.
That's our
Oh,
£360 item for this week's episode, yeah?
oh my word! This. Surely this can't be the same band. There's what? There's another album. No, no, this must be all different.
No, I think you have to go to Knox, try Knox vibrators or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Here we go. Yeah, just having a look in there. Oh, come on. Yeah, Knox76.com. Yeah. Formed in 1984. 3 albums, dude. The 3 albums: Fallen Angels, which is the one that we had,
Yep.
in Loving Memory,
Yep.
which came out in '86, and Wheel of Fortune, which came out in '88.
Now, if you go online, those last two are available. It's a double CD pack, I believe.
All right, okay,
You can pick it up for about £8. It's all right. It's a little curio
yeah,
if you
yeah.
if you're that way inclined.
Well, just maybe, it certainly maybe interested in that. Yeah, I say they're things that
I don't think anyone in Hanoi is on those other albums though.
the things that once were had and are now lost. Members. Oh my God, no! That's just, you've got to be really careful here, aren't you? There's another Fallen Angels band from 1966 from Washington D.C. So yeah,
Yeah, don't get that one.
no. And then there's another one from Twickenham, which is a
Twickenham.
covers band doing Judas Priest, AC/DC, and the Scorpions. So yeah, names, band names are fair game at the moment, aren't they? They seem to be,
Bad
And so
state of affairs.
really, really disappointed that somebody has pinched ours and is not at all what we were.
No, I've told a few people. In case you didn't know, our band name was Baby Dynamite, and there's another one out there, and they'll go, "Oh, I look for your band on YouTube." I'm like, "Nah,
No, that's definitely not us.
pre-YouTube." Although there is footage somewhere of that National Music Day gig we did when I fell off the stage and trashed the PA.
Is there really?
Well, I know they filmed it. I've never seen it. Maybe they just threw it away.
Dude, you had the biggest high heels I have ever fucking seen.
And standing just a little bit too close to the edge. Because if I remember rightly, we did we did one original song, or maybe two originals, and then for some reason, probably because Pete was in the band, we did Rats, You're in Love. This is 1992 or three, I reckon. And everyone just sat down. And then
We
we
did,
had that little pistol in our pocket and we went into Smells Like Teen Spirit.
which wasn't,
And the place erupted.
yeah.
And that's when I spoilt the party by falling off the stage.
But we didn't we do on that show? Didn't we do a version of Saturday Night as well by Def Leppard, High and Dry?
Fucking hell, I hope not. Did we?
Yeah, I'm sure we did. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I blame Pete for that as well.
Oh, dude, we were the best band on the bill,
You think?
and I played in 2 of them.
Yeah, we supported, didn't we? And then your other band headlined.
Yeah,
But you can't beat a man trashing the PA.
no, definitely not. Definitely not.
Who
Oh
else
man,
was
that
there that night? I can't remember any of the other bands.
um, was there the Last Bandits? Were they there? I think the
I
last.
don't. I think they pulled out because I always liked the sound of them, but I don't think I ever saw them. Um, there were definitely about 5 or 6 bands though.
Yeah.
Hey ho.
Well, yeah.
I seem
Apparently,
to recall that famous sentence, "I'm not fucking supporting anybody," and then the response coming back with, "Yeah, but it's my PA, man." Okay. In that case, you're on. Yeah.
yeah. the day shall be rude when you when, when you made that comment. Yeah, but it's my PA. Oh, we'll see about that.
Yeah, it's broken now, mate. Ah, dear.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
92.
yeah. Apparently, anyway, Sammy Yaffa and Razzle both played in the played in the Fallen Angels.
Oh no. Nasty and Andy are there too.
So pretty much Hanoi rocks without
Yeah,
Mike
pretty
Monroe.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Just looking
and I
at
think
credit.
I think you'll find that if you dig deep, Mike Monroe's on it as well, somewhere doing some backing vocals.
Yeah. It's a truly terrible cover though. It really is.
Great record though. Great record.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I used to play that quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean this was
Oh, hang on,
oh.
I can also add um Fallen Angels to my list of vocalists that are shittier than me. I'm amassing quite a number of fans now.
Do you I'm not even going to go down that route with fucking drummers because because I can't think of one. I can't think of one.
Ah, man, you're a good drummer. You were a good drummer.
Maybe I could have joined Marionette or the Babysitters or something.
No, you were a good drummer.
Oh dear. Anyway,
I'm gonna throw my last one in now,
oh,
being
no,
a,
here he is.
because I've got a segue, and we all like a segue, which is Dave Grohl replacing Chad Channing.
Right.
Um,
Oh,
there you go.
there's
Lots
some
of
serious
people,
thought
lots of
gone
people
into this,
don't know
isn't
that,
there?
do they?
No, no, probably not. No, some serious thought gone into this, though, isn't there? Yeah.
Um,
I,
yeah. I mean, here's a massive difference, right? That's a
yeah.
huge difference. It's a shame that they'd done their best work before he joined. He's not on never mind, is he? I don't think. Or is he?
Um, I think is that's when he played, isn't it? Never mind. I think
Did he do the
uh,
album with them though?
he did. Yeah, I think he. I think it was Channing on Bleach, and 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 then he did Nevermind because that was the difference in the style of drumming that everybody talked about on that. I thought.
Blah, blah, blah. I can't be arsed reading this whole thing. Um,
Oh,
blah,
what? Yeah, he's
blah,
gone on.
blah. Give money to Wikipedia. Blah, blah. Um,
Uh, and we really should. Everybody should give money to Wikipedia. You
just
know.
fuck off, Wikipedia. Anyway, yeah. Dave was a great addition, and I don't need to say any more than that. That's it. The rest is Dave history. I tell you what, though, his what's his book called? Is it called Storyteller? Yeah, one of the best books I've read in a couple of years.
Really.
Yeah, totally worth getting your hands on. It's up. Oh, it's not quite up there with Dave Lee Roth,
Yeah.
but it comes close.
Really.
Hmm,
I
very
mean,
good.
he struck me as he's one of those. He's one of those journeyman guys as well, isn't he? That sort of like that can play either guitar or drums with anybody, and everybody kind of loves him. And he's is he bought the was it the Sound City um, recording studios and
Yep.
massive massive music fan he is, isn't he? Doesn't
Yeah.
matter what like genre. He's just a massive music fan, which is which is what exactly the kind of person that you want to be involved with, really.
Really. And I like the way he does those drum off things on social media with like 8-year-old girls and stuff. That's magical. Well, like, did that come out wrong?
Maybe.
You know what I mean? No, good old
Uh,
Dave.
yeah, I mean, I'm not a massive Foo Fighters fan.
Me
I've got
neither.
all the rest.
I've
I've
got
got,
none.
but, but, you know, but yeah, more power to his elbow. He's just a brilliant guy. I think, you know, the kind of guy that you know, you'd really like to hang out with for a few hours in a pub, isn't he? You know.
Glad he wasn't in our fucking band.
We'd have killed him. You can fuck right off. You can fuck right off, Dave.
Go and join a proper band.
Oh dear. So I've got a few here anyway. I've got a few here, and I'll throw in Faith No More.
Oh, good
Um,
call. Good call.
Originally, obviously, Chuck Mosley, who did the first two albums, um, and then replaced by Mike Patton from Mr. Bungle, which were kind of like some weird kind of Zappa-esque kind of jazz metal kind of thing going on, which he carried on as well. While, to be fair to him, while he was while he stayed in Faith No More, definitely not my kind of thing.
Me neither.
Uh, Faith No
No, neither
More,
were Faith No More, to be honest.
they weren't they weren't they weren't a massive thing of mine, but I remember buying the We Care a Lot album with Chuck Mosley on it when that came out, which
I remember buying a We Care a Lot pin button badge for 10p. That was the extent of my fan worship.
that was the extent of how much you cared.
Yeah.
I care 10p.
I think it was 15p for but what's the other badge? But someone's got to do it? No.
Oh yeah, it's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it. Yeah,
Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good choice.
yeah. So I mean, he only did Chuck Mosley did the first two albums, obviously, and then Mike Patton did five albums, 89 to 2015. But they're one of those bands that sort of like, you know, if they can overcome their arguing and stuff, they kind of like do a couple of shows and get back together for, you know, a couple of months and then disintegrate again, you know. But
With Dave Grohl on drums.
doesn't he play for everybody now? I'm pretty much sure he's the ultimate gun for hire, isn't he? So then my next one is Genesis. Again, not a massive fan of Genesis, but formed in 1967. Peter Gabriel lead vocals on six albums from 67 to 74. And then Phil Collins took over, who was a formative member of the band anyway, just playing the drums previously and backing vocals. Um, they did eight albums, and then the last official album they did, Calling All Stations, didn't have Phil Collins on it. That was I can't remember who was
Rutherford?
on, but
Is it Mike Rutherford that was in Genesis?
yeah, he was the bass player originally, and then
Right.
ended up being the guitar player. Yeah,
I'm not a big fan at all, but I sort of know early Genesis, and that's probably the bravest move ever, changing from Genesis with Peter Gabriel into what they changed into with Phil Collins.
yeah, they were much more they
They're
were
just
much more pop oriented, weren't they, with Phil Collins?
yeah.
You know, a lot less a lot less experimental. But I mean, they've gone sort of like undergone some sort of like massive lineup changes anyway, haven't they? Like Steve Hackett had left, and who was the original guitar player as well. And then, like I said, you know, Mike Rutherford, who was the bass player, then became the guitar player and stuff. And yeah, but they got more poppy and more poppy as the years went on, didn't they? Really, and
And then Phil decided he could do it all by himself, just the same.
yeah,
Good choice,
and
Phil.
well, I mean, to be honest, some of those early Phil Collins albums are really, really good. You know, No Jacket Required and stuff like that. You know,
What's
top
the other
notch.
one called? The other one's called what's the one that came after it? That was pretty good too. Whatever it was called.
Um,
I
No Jacket Required, but you must have a shirt and tie. I can't remember.
It's called Face Value.
Face value, yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, good on you, Phil.
some seriously good albums there. Um, and like I said, they just disappeared into this sort of like hideous pop stuff, didn't they? Like, you know, Jesus, He Knows Me, and all that kind of, just not for me.
Jesus,
Definitely.
he knows me. You just made that up.
No, you know, it's like that bloody thing about um, gospel preachers trying to cream money off people and stuff in America. You know. Uh,
I don't know that one.
oh God.
Maybe it's just as well.
Yeah. No, it was all really. It started getting really cringy. So I'll move on.
And then
Uh,
Phil went and did one of the greatest pop songs ever, Easy Lover, with Phil Bailey.
with
That's a
Phil
great
Bailey,
tune.
fantastic. Yeah. And
See,
he
I'd
was the
rather listen to that than Iron Maiden any day of the week.
yeah.
And it's only one song.
He was he did the drumming on that Band Aid thing as well, didn't he? He kind of like got shipped in just sort of like for like half an hour or something to do the drumming on that Band Aid song that he'd never heard before. You know?
Yeah, and then he played with Led Zepp, didn't he?
Yeah. What was I watching the other day? And he was playing.
Phil Collins is the Dave Grohl of the past.
He is, yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to think what it was I was watching the other night, and it was somebody spectacular featuring Phil Collins on drums, and I was like, what? What?
Somebody spectacular. What, like Whitney Houston or something like that?
No, no, no. Some kind of like, you know, one of our kind of like rock bands
All right.
that we would sort of like, you know, be completely on board with, and it was kind of like, you know, but no drummer and
is,
featuring Phil Collins instead. It was like, what?
is he the new Catman?
I don't think he's anything anymore, judging by that last concert,
Pretty bad, isn't it?
that
Not
last tour. Oh Jesus, yeah.
not nice to see somebody like that.
No, you know, I feel utterly sorry for the guy. You know, it was just, but it was also pretty cringe as well, wasn't it? It's sort of like, you know, I think there comes a time when you have to say, I can't do this anymore. Don't
Yeah.
make me. Yeah.
Oh, 3 million, you say?
It would be, I can just move my arm.
3 mil. Okay, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah. So I think anyway, I think moving swiftly on, because we're in the same sort of realm of stuff. I've also got Pink Floyd, formed in 1965. Sid Barrett, extraordinary chap. 1965 to 68, 3 years, one album. That's it. The entirety of his artistic integrity, all piled into one album with Pink Floyd.
He did a
Would you
couple of
believe?
solo albums too, didn't he?
He did 2 solo albums,
They're
yeah, before.
very hard to listen to.
Yeah, and I think the Sid Barrett era of Pink Floyd is also very subjective. People either get it or they don't get it. You know,
Maybe he had to be there.
to me, he's very much like he was very much like the Andrew Wood of his day. You know, where he was.
Oh,
It was sort of like, very super artistic and you know, completely off the wall sort of thing. And I don't think anybody, you know, I don't think Pink Floyd would have done anything if it hadn't been for him to start the whole ball rolling, you know. Um,
But to be fair, they made a bit of a good crack at it, didn't they?
yeah, but obviously he was kind of like he was falling apart as they were recording. And say, you know, what was it, 68? He left, or he was removed, I should say. Dave Gilmour had already joined the band as a second guitarist at that point, 67. So both him and Roger Waters took over the vocals up to 1985 when they split up officially. And then Pink Floyd kind of like restarted as Pink Floyd without Roger Waters and did another 3 albums then. But say I think that, you know, Dave Gilmour had a smashing voice. I just flicked on thinking, have we have we reset? Oh, there's a picture of Razzle.
Yeah, that's him playing in Marionette, apparently.
Wow, wow. I really didn't know that. You know, didn't know that at all. Mind you, a
Uh,
fan.
I think Ray
fan
told me once, but I've forgotten.
yeah, that that Ray Zal interview with um, Rob Lane on Straight to Video.
Hmm.
That's really good. That as well.
Yeah,
Ray is completely Ray, isn't he? On that, he's
doesn't he? Doesn't he mention it on there? Maybe you went to make a cup of tea.
no,
Oh,
don't
maybe
know.
not. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Don't
I'd
recall.
be really interested to know how much they used to pay him for Pandora, just out of interest.
Yeah,
Like, was it a livable wage?
it certainly didn't sound it, did it? I mean,
No.
the malarkey that he had to go through to actually do it as well. Like I said, when, you know, it was really frustrating when people were coming in with digitized versions of stuff, and everything that he was doing was hand drawn, and you know, and
I
actually physically walking into the Kerrang office,
yeah.
you know, to
I
hand over.
I bumped into Ray one night at the Marquee. I can't remember who I'd gone to see. This has been this would be 88, 89. And I was a bit drunk. Ray was very drunk. And the guy he was with, Larry Miller from Uncle Sam, was
All right.
completely off his tree.
Wow.
And Larry came over to me and he went, "Hey man, nice hair. I could make a coat out of that." And then he was gone.
Oh Jesus! I think the last, well, no, not the last time I saw him, but I think I remember I remember going to Chessington World of Adventures with him and Julia, and
Really?
it was, what a mental fucking day! I've no idea why we even did it. You know, can't even imagine. But very very weird.
When was that?
Um, oh God, that must have been, I don't know, early early 90s, maybe mid 90s.
Oh, maybe I had to open the store.
Yeah, early 90s, something like that. Yeah, I was very, I mean, I'm not even sure why I was even down there, you know. And then and then I think the last time I saw him was Mrs. J had moved to this house on the Wirral up by Birkenhead somewhere. And
I
she was
was
having
there.
a moving in party.
I was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that
That
was,
was the
yeah.
night. That was the night you drove there in the snowstorm,
Was it?
and we stayed for 3 days.
All I remember is it was funny because while I was listening to that interview with him with Ray on that straight to video thing, and and I was thinking, I the last time I remember speaking to him, he was going off with these Neds that were, they were kind of like, going on about pop music and this, that, and the other. And all he could do was kept talking about fucking Sugar Ray because I think he'd met Sugar Ray about 2 weeks before, and it was kind of like, and he'd really gotten into them and really kind of like, connected with the guy, the singer from the band and stuff. And it was like, and every time anybody started a conversation, he would just turn it around and go like, and have you heard Sugar Ray? It's just
I'm
like
not
really,
sure I've ever heard Sugar Ray.
really mental. Yeah, not my kind of thing. I've got to be honest. No, I'll let you discover that one on your own.
Yeah, thanks. What else you got up your sleeve?
All right. So I think I'm actually coming to an end here. I think we've done all the major stuff.
But you haven't got on your list, which I just secretly pulled up in the background. That wait, wait, wait. That Brian Parry and Phil Vokins were replaced in Rothschild by Lance Rocket and Eddie Starr.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that wasn't the original lineup.
No. Brian Parry and Phil Vokins.
Phil Vokins left to join Bill Ward's band in Max Havoc, who I thought was a wrestler, but there you go.
No, actually, now you've mentioned his name, I'm sure he's played with some other people, Phil Vokins. I'm sure I've heard somebody talking about him recently.
Really?
Yeah, this new wave of heavy metal stuff. I'm sure he's one of these another one of those kind of like early '80s journeyman kind of guys who's ended up playing with a few people.
He's played with Persian Risk, and that's it. I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think. I'm just trying to think who I've heard interviews with recently.
Oh, hang on. He's Time Machine, an album by Stevie James and Phil Vokins
Stevie James.
on that straight to video thing. Why don't
Yes.
we just get that fucking guy on our podcast?
Yeah. That was it. It was the Stevie James interview. Yeah.
Right.
And he going on about yeah.
Well, small world, eh?
Yeah, but I wouldn't like to wallpaper it.
No, and I wouldn't like to have been. I wonder what they look like back then. I'd like to see a proper Netflix documentary of Rothschild through the ages and their evolution.
Yeah,
I must make it.
I think Stevie James wasn't sort of like 100% complimentary towards him the other day on that interview. To be honest,
No one's ever complimentary towards Rothschild.
I thought they were brilliant.
Me too.
I really loved them. They were just sort of like so, completely mental, and when you absolutely fantastic video that they did of them playing at the Marquee Club on was it called War Machine?
Yeah.
And of all the things, Rocky Shades picks up that bottle of fucking Malibu and he just sort of like he's guzzling it down and it goes in his eyes and everything and he can't see for the next 5 minutes. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. I
of all things, a bottle of Malibu.
I tell you a funny Rothschild story. I have a couple, but this one's good. Went to see them. Must have been in between Snack Attack and the Biz Socks at the Marquee, and the previous night, which could have been the Larry Miller night, I hadn't been to bed. I went to whatever that gig was. Then I went to work. Then I went to the Marquee to see Rothschild, and they took so long coming on that I was sitting on the stage and I fell asleep sitting up at the front of the stage. But when they started, I didn't wake up. I woke up. I woke up about halfway through the gig, and no one moved me. I mean, they weren't known for being quiet.
He's part of the set. Don't touch him. He's part of the set.
Like a rag doll. Says here the band's speciality was its DIY aesthetic. No shit. They were great.
They were great.
They were
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what happened after that, to be honest, though, because I think they've got about 5 albums, haven't they? But Rocky isn't on all of them, so I'm assuming that they kind of like split up at some point and they've replaced him. I think Lance Rocket is still the kind of like the main man.
I have no idea. We must look one day. Anyway, sorry, diverted there.
So I think we've pretty much covered most things now. I've got a few things that we've mentioned. Perhaps there was a couple of additionals, the bass players that came to mind when unfortunately when Cliff Burton died from Metallica and they replaced him with Jason Newsted from Flotsam and Jetsam. Not saying he's better. Equally talented in a different way, but definitely changed the way that Metallica did everything, really.
Well, so far as I can tell, and this is just from listening to Mick Wall's podcast, is that once Cliff was gone, it became more of James's band. Like he didn't have to share the power.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate thing for Jason Newsted when he's because Cliff was he was a finger player, so he plugged the strings rather than and Jason Newsted was like an incredibly fast player with a pick, which was quite sort of like unusual for a bass player at that sort of like time. But he was so fast, and obviously he was an ideal candidate to take on the kind of music that they were playing. But I think they kind of, when they got him in, they kind of resented him at the same time because he wasn't Cliff, and that wasn't his fault. It was just an unfortunate circumstance that obviously the bus crash and everything that had caused Cliff's death. But the next album they did with Jason Newsted was And Justice for All, and they literally removed the bass from it. The whole album, it's really hard to listen to. Listening back to it now, it's really hard to listen to because they've kind of like removed all the bass parts to it. It's just sort of like so low in the mix that it almost doesn't exist, and just super weird. And I know that sort of like some people have done kind of like remixes of it, unofficial remixes of it, where they put the bass back in and it's
right,
and it sounds improved, but kind of like it was almost like a grudge that they held against him for joining the band when it was not his, not his fault that the previous guy had died.
Is he still in the band?
No, he's left now.
He got replaced by that Mexican dude, right?
Yeah, they got from
that other band.
Yeah, Suicidal Tendencies. Rob Trujillo.
Trujillo, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, Again, really amazing bass player, fantastic, and just what they needed, I think. Just to sort of like to kickstart them again. And that new song that they've just released, that Lux Eternal, just sounds fantastic. Really, really good. So really glad that they're back on seem to be back on track.
Fair enough.
My last thing, then, my last thing that I can think of in this current for this current discussion is Fleetwood Mac, which I kind of like hung on to because it was kind of like um, it was appropriate for Christine McVie dying the other week.
Mm-hmm.
So again, 1967. She joined in 1970. Originally, it was Peter Green and Fleetwood Mac, and he did 9 albums, which were all kind of like really kind of like bluesy and guitar oriented and stuff, weren't they? And again, some really good stuff on there as well, but not the kind of Fleetwood Mac that we know and love now. Not
Now, I
at
guess
all.
it depends where you come into the picture, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
So
I know plenty of Kiss fans who only know the unmasked version. I know plenty of Van Halen fans who only know the Sammy version.
yeah,
So I guess it really does, and love that version of the band. So I guess it does depend where you come in, doesn't it?
yeah, most definitely. I mean, I wasn't. I didn't know much about them beforehand. Obviously, I mean, they swapped over 1974, wasn't it? That Buckingham and Nicks joined the band, and that was when they kind of like became the band that we kind of like know today. That sort of
Yeah.
pop rock kind of acousticy kind of pop rock stuff that they do now. Um, Before that, very very different, and I think it, it was only because you're the same as me, is that you kind of like you like to dig into something when
Yeah.
you know that there's history there. You like to dig into it and see what it's all about. Um,
Good band.
yeah,
I can take or leave them, to be honest.
yeah. Not,
Oh,
but it's funny though. It's funny though because for everybody that knows Fleetwood Mac and kind of like goes, oh yeah, they Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, that kind of like period. They actually did one less album than the Peter Green version of Fleetwood. So isn't that weird?
yeah.
They've been going longer, but they recorded one less album. Weird.
Didn't Tusk almost take longer than Chinese democracy?
Yeah, I think so.
So I believe.
I don't know much about the album. I got to be honest. I don't know much about the album, but I really like the song Tusk. I think it's brilliant. So,
No, it's great. I was just briefly looking in my Apple Music list of bands here. Jimmy Crespo was not a good replacement for Joe Perry,
man,
although I really like Jimmy Crespo.
yeah. What was that album called? Was it?
Is that Night in the Ruts?
No. Between a Rock and a Hard Place.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because he did the lightning strikes and all that stuff, wasn't it? Yeah, that was a great album, really good. But
1982.
yeah, but just not. Didn't he go? I think he went off to join. Was it Wild Horses with Jimmy Bain and stuff like that? I think after that,
That
when
sounds
they
familiar.
got back in, yeah, I
I,
think,
I like that record.
yeah, good record.
Yeah.
That was actually something. That was one of those ones that I kind of like. I must mention that. I must write that down. I must mention that.
Um, Nobody that ever replaced anybody in the original Alice Cooper band has been better. Period. What else we got here?
Did we mention Did we mention Kiss and Vinnie Vincent in the last episode? Maybe I can't
I
remember.
can't remember. Is Vinny better than Ace? No, he
No,
did save their arse though.
I think we mentioned Mark Slaughter, didn't we? And
We did, yeah,
Robert Fleischman in the Vinnie Vincent invasion.
we did.
So
Just quickly flashing through this list. Um, the bloke who replaced Dizzy Dean Davidson in Britney Fox was not better.
I like that album though.
Me too.
Um,
Six Guns Loaded.
Six Guns Loaded. Yeah, what a great song that is. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, he didn't sound quite as sort of like as Dizzy Dean did, that but he did
Black Eyed
oh,
Susan.
Black Eyed Susan. Yeah. Well, I think they only did one album though, didn't they?
They did.
And I,
Electric Rattlebone. Great record.
yeah, and I don't think I I honestly don't know if I've ever heard from him ever since that album.
No, me neither. He must have done so. He kind of just disappeared.
Oh, which is if he did, that's a real shame because again, his his voice was kind of like one of a kind, really, wasn't it? But you know,
Yeah. What else we got here? Not seeing anything. Not seeing anything. Cheap Trick. No. Never gonna happen.
oh yeah, they their bass player though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Um, I think he did three albums before the original guy came back.
Um,
Forget his name.
um. Oh God, what is his name? Um. Wow, what is his name? I can remember everyone else's name. Tom Peterson.
Tom Peterson. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the other guy's name. Yeah,
What Bunny and the replacement guy.
yeah. I mean, he was good. He was good. Um,
At this stage of the game, everyone's good though, aren't they? Like you get
John Brown.
replacements that can play now, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than just whoever happens to be lying around, really.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like depending on your um, well, not even actually depending on your on your quality, depending on whereabouts you are in the situating in the world. It seems to be at the moment because after listening to so many of these things where you listen to interviews with people like Mickey Finn and Stevie James and um, various guys from Cinderella or this, that, and the other, and they've all kind of like just been like a big pool of musicians. So you might be in a band, but then somebody might need a bass player or a drummer. So you just go and play with that band for a while your band is on hiatus.
Yeah.
Or you end up playing with them and then your band splits up and then kind of like the rest of that band that split up becomes part of that pool of musicians to go and play with some other people you know
It's very
just
odd, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I mean it's that Mark Turin with the Bullet Boys playing with Rat and 100 different other bands. you know, um, just like I say, just an incredible pool of musicians there that seems to have and they all seem to have played with everybody before they settled down to form a band that sort of like was that had some sort of like um, integrity. By that I mean sort of like a longevity of maybe a few albums or whatever before they split up again and just sort of like jump back into that pool, you know?
I guess it's all about just keeping going at the moment, isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean, I mean, they're all a little bit older than us, so what's that, like 60? To still
yeah,
be to still be pushing Bang Tango around the world, or the Electric Boys, or
yeah,
it's quite something, really. Because I don't think anyone ever thought they'd go anywhere till they went somewhere and then they couldn't get back there again. It's
yeah.
quite odd.
And I think what was the one who was I listening to today? It was Alex Kane. Um,
He's been around.
Which, yeah, what a I think that's one of the best interviews I've ever heard. Not for the fact that it was a great interview, but just the stuff that he came out with. The sort of like all the information that he was throwing out there. Because I mean I didn't know anything about him previous to Life, Sex, Death. And yet he kind of like he was with Enough's Enough before they signed, and all those songs on the first album were kind of like his, and they had to kind of like just re-record the guitar parts when they got the record deal and stuff. And then and he played with Holland. I had an album of
Holland?
theirs. Yeah,
Who the fuck are Holland?
you not remember Holland? No.
No.
Um, I had a they did an album called There Goes the Neighborhood. Um, I had an album by them, um, and then obviously he did the anti-product stuff, and he's played with Alice Cooper, and he's played with fucking so and so.
He's playing with somebody really big at the moment, isn't he? Like
Um,
like really big.
he's
Um,
he's another one of those sort of like journeyman kind of like guys um who's the guy from Brother Kane? It's
Damon
kind of like
Johnson.
yeah, kind of like him, where he's kind of like done loads and loads and loads of stuff on his own, and done his own so many of his own bands as well, and yet still ends up going and playing with like sort of like really cool people, like.
I can't think who he's with at the moment. I know he played with Sash Jordan for a little while.
Yeah, he played with Ginger for a while, didn't he? Didn't he have a um he had a little band together with Ginger and that, didn't he? I think in the guys from the Wild Arts, I think.
Okay. Oh, Clam
Um,
Abuse.
Climb Abuse, yeah.
He was also in Dirty Looks.
Was he really?
Apparently so.
Wow,
On Cool from the Wire, perhaps.
that's a
Uh,
great album.
it
Cool
is.
from yeah.
Anyway, what was I going to say? Um, sorry, talking of Bang Tango, here's something to jot down. Um, Mark Knight and the Unsung Heroes.
All right, okay.
When he quit Bang Tango, he went and made these two albums. Picture of me holding my thumbs up.
Oh, is it like one small thumb and one big thumb? So
Yeah,
is that like one really good album and one
yeah, that's about the size of
one
it.
okay album?
One of them's something to do with the cat. Don't kill the cat. I think that's the better one.
Right.
And the other one is called Road Sick Eyes. Good stuff. Nice bloke as well. We had a chat one day about bathroom tiling, I do believe. He'd just spent the weekend tiling his bathroom, and I sent him a message that said, "Nice work, dude." And then we had that conversation about how difficult it is to cut out circular bits around the toilet.
Right.
Yeah. So Everyone still lives in the real world.
Yeah, I love that though because you kind of like the older you get, the more people you listen to, the more the more interviews you hear, the more people you realise are in the same fucking boat as we are, and we just
Yep.
we played some rock and roll, in various kind of like guises and stuff, and yet we've still got to fucking pay for the dog's medication, or we've still got to tile the bathroom, or we've still.
Yep. I'm still painting these bloody doors of ours white at the moment.
Oh, Jesus.
I sent you the. I sent you the. Well, it's not worth something for the podcast. Oh, I sent you the picture, didn't I?
No.
Oh wait, I must send it to you now so I can hear you laugh. Wait one moment. This is worth waiting for. Here we go.
Oh, I'm gonna have to press buttons now, aren't I? I have to press buttons to see what. Oh, I've still got a picture of Razzle.
No, here it comes. Oh, I sent two by accident. Oh well. So yeah, the doors were brown, and we thought, why are they brown? I'm going to paint them all white. So, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. There it goes.
Oh my word! Look at that.
Yeah. So now they've got these big. There's three doors upstairs. They've all got these big white crucifixes on them. But I'll leave them like that.
Like that. Well, that's a proper way to leave them as well. That
Well, on the back,
that looks
I might do
really
the
good.
upside down crosses on the back ones.
That looks really good. Yeah, I think you should definitely leave it like that.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to get away with it much longer. Stick that in your pipe bang tango.
Yeah, I think what you need as well though is that as you open the door on the opposite wall, there needs to be a massive pentagram. Just kind of like, just to finish it off.
A hastily drawn goat of Mendes in tile.
In tile, yeah, mosaic.
Ah dear. Well, that's been a good one. I can't think of anything we've missed out, but we'll have missed something out, right?
I'm sure we will have done. I'm sure we will have done. But it's kind of like hard when it's spread across two, and they're sort of like so far apart, really, isn't it?
I will probably stitch them together.
But yeah, no, but it's good, and I think there's probably some stuff there for people to kind of like have a bit of a delve into,
Absolutely.
again, you know, some the old rabbit hole to disappear down as usual.
Yeah, I mean that first Fallen Angels album is one of my favorites, as is the Silver Missiles from the Suicide Twins. I like those two albums.
Yeah,
They appeal to that sort of mid '80s rocky punky bit of me.
yeah. I think once again though, I think if anybody sees the album cover, don't be put off by it. Not just don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a record by its cover.
Yeah, and it's not fantastic. It's never going to set the world on fire, but if you're a fan of that sort of Hanoi rock, and Lords of the New Church and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah, yeah. It's up there,
absolutely.
isn't it? Definitely.
What should we do next time?
Uh, I have
What
no idea.
worst replacement band members?
Band members that made the band quit.
Yeah, like Mark St. John.
Oh dear.
Did he ever do an interview? Don't think I've ever seen him speak.
He did. He did that. Was it White? Were they called White Tiger?
Oh yeah, he was in them, wasn't he?
Yeah. which was kind of like supposed to be some kind of like super group, but he had some kind of tendonitis problem, didn't he? Which was why he never did the tour
Yeah,
after he recorded the album.
he
Yeah,
died, didn't he? He is dead, isn't he?
I have no idea.
What's his name again?
Mark St. John.
Pretty sure he died.
Because I think he was a
Yeah,
guitar teacher and everything.
2007.
Oh,
Um, Mark St. John slipped away into obscurity under mysterious circumstances.
I remember having the White Tiger album because it was kind of like the thing that you did was just sort of if any kind of like any related band to anything that you had previously, you would just go and buy, wouldn't you? Or I would
Yeah.
anyway.
Ooh,
So
wait. As he fought for musical recognition beyond his Chris contribution, St. John battled personal demons. In 2006, he was arrested for possession of drug paraphernalia and charged with attempted destruction of evidence and went to jail.
wow.
Um,
It's kind of like
Apparent brain hemorrhage, but the following year, evidence surfaced linking his condition to injuries sustained in a beating he suffered while he was in lockup. Wow.
it's,
Wow.
that's kind of like an American thing, though, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't go to jail in this country for that kind of thing, would you?
No.
You know, you'd have to be a pretty fucking hefty dealer to end up going to jail for, certainly not for having drug paraphernalia on you. Jesus Christ, like.
Whenever I hear that, it always makes me think of like they've got like a magazine or a badge. Or it's like I don't know, paraphernalia over here is like something like merchandising. I would have
Yeah,
always
yeah, yeah. That's it. Yeah, it's, it's, it's drug army membership.
weird. That's our list. See you next week.
Okay.